make things more fun. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess, we can start, can we? Right? So first I want to, good morning everyone, right? I want to extend a very warm welcome and already a thank you for the organization team. It's my great pleasure to be for my ever-growing fan club, the third time appointed as your MC today, and for the less fan, it's most probably my last time. So I'm glad to welcome you here for the third edition of the French Tech Summit in Indonesia. In this beautiful setup and pretty warm today in Bali, right? So I'm thrilled to be your MC once more. And this year, so it's welcome. I need to have a, to do some sign, not too obvious. It's a code, right? So maybe, before introducing the other, I'm glad to introduce myself briefly. So I'm Jérôme Remer, a French national, as you can hear it. Spend my life mostly in the recruitment industry, in the tech recruitment industry, and more recently as a tech investor in HR tech mainly, and an entrepreneur as I'm running two companies. So IPs is a recruitment company, tech recruitment company in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. And Visier Technology is a cloud software house in Singapore and Indonesia, right? So that's myself, right? And I'm glad to be introducing this beautiful event, and we're gonna be about the future of work and adapting to new realities, right? So throughout the day, we're gonna reflect on how technology is reshaping our professional lives, but also on the broader, questions that come with it. Who could be, for instance, are we driving technology, or technology is driving us? So most probably, I guess you guys have some question for yourself, for the next generation, for your kids, about how we shape the future and how we coexist, how we strive together with the technology. Throughout the today panels, right, we're gonna have panels 3 and workshop 3 also. And we will explore this question together. So I wish, as a two previous edition, that you're gonna be, it's not only about learning, right? It's about also interacting, because you guys, you are all users, but most of you are in the tech space and you are shaping it, right? So it's great that we can interact, ask yourself, ask the other about, these challenges that are in front of us. And yes, great. So we're gonna be hopefully, interactive events. So please feel free to, interact with each other, interact with the panelists. It will be more than welcome. I guess we are. So I'm glad. Yeah. So now we have a slide about the program. If ever, and it can happen, right? Either my flow or my accent is not super clear to you, you can just scan this and you will have the program, the workshop, everything going to be detailed there, so you can refer to it anytime during the event. Can we... Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm glad also to welcome you. You are here presently in Bali, but we have people coming from Jakarta. Thank you very much. Some cannot make the trip. So we have for these people Jakarta, but also for people in Asia and beyond, right? Because we have the French Tech chapters back to France who are going to attend this meeting. Thanks to Work Adventure, right? So it's a platform that, basically people will be broadcasted the event, and they can enter either the main room, workshops, or any sponsor booth at any time and interact with us right now, okay? So thank you very much for the people who are physically here, and thank you also for the people who are joining us through this broadcast venue. That's, I guess, about it, yeah. So, of course, we have, for a great event, we have great attendees, but we also need a bit of sponsorship, and it's very, very nice for these people to support this initiative, and a special thanks to Immersion, who has a booth just, across a swimming pool. And Immersion is, in a few words, but I'm sure they're gonna tell us much more. It's augmented reality devices that you can even enjoy, right, and try here on site. We also have that work adventures I mentioned, and Quantum Temple also. These people are organizing, super nice trip, events, or anything here in Bali. They can show you the Bali that most probably even Balinese don't know. So don't hesitate to reach out to these people, and thank you, Quantum Temple, for your support. And there is other sponsors that maybe not mention all of them, but thank you, everyone, for being here, supporting the event, interacting, challenging, or everything like that. Now, it's time for me to introduce, or maybe, sorry, I just want to extend one specific welcome. So we're gonna be honored by the presence later today of Bapak Sangmade Mahendra, which is the acting governor of Bali, and also from the French Fabien Pennon, Mr. Fabien Pennon, which is a French ambassador to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and the ASEAN, right? So he's gonna come, I guess, around 12 today to first, share a bit with us and enjoy a networking session. So with this special shank, right, we have also one very, not I'm going to say famous, but very important individual today. Right now, here we have, we are lucky to have Mr. Bapak Boni Puciento, with, I'm not sure, maybe here, thank you, sir. Donc, a round of applause for Boni, And Bapak Boni is director at the Economy Digital, right, under the Cominfo ministry in Indonesia. Thank you very much for coming and joining us today. So that's about it for the thanks and the special thanks, and somehow what's gonna happen in a couple of, few than a couple of hours. Throughout the day. So it's my pleasure to ask both Anne and Reza, the co-president of the French Tech, to join me here and to tell you more about what is French Tech Indonesia about and the French Tech more globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jérôme. Just to add on a little bit, so the online venue, you can all connect on it right now. I highly encourage you to try it. It's really fun, really nice design. So we will show again the QR code later on, but definitely, give it a try. It's quite fun. And also for the sponsors, so they're over there. For Immersion, you will have the opportunity to try augmented reality glasses, so definitely go and have a look. And Quantum, they offer really a highly reduced price for a trip of discovery of Bali tomorrow and on Sunday for those interested who participate at this event. So go to the booth. Over to you to start with the French Tech.
Hello? Yeah, it's working. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to have this third season of La French Tech Indonesia Bali Tech Summit. Big thank you for coming and joining us. I would like to thank especially one person without whom this will not happen. Anne Caron, without your leadership, yes, you have a great leadership, and that's why people have joined you to create this event. Your determination.
It's the second one as well. We're doing in Bali. We're one ahead of you.
Yeah, we have experience. We have experience. And your determination has created a lot of inspiring speakers today, and thank you and bravo for organizing this. I think it's going to be a great day for everybody today. And a special thank you to our MC also, who's Yeah, thank you. Who is the third time also to do this, and he's getting like a good wine, better and better and better with age. So La French Tech is a global organization started in France in 2013. And we have today more than 68 communities around the world. We are in more than 100 cities. If you ask me, I'm going to Tokyo tomorrow and I need to connect with somebody, we can introduce you somebody, at least 2 or 3 names in 5 minutes. We can connect you to people in San Francisco, in Paris, in London, in anywhere in the world. And I think it's what makes the strength of La French Tech. In Indonesia, we have a different perspective. We have different missions. So, Anne, can you explain maybe about our objectives in Indonesia?
Yeah. So, as you rightly mentioned, the French Tech is 10 years old, but in Indonesia, we actually got incorporated only just last year. We've been running and starting the community 3 years ago. And so the idea is just to build this ecosystem in Indonesia and build a community where everybody can learn from each other and benefit from a business perspective as well. So we are a French-initiated community, but we are very inclusive. I mean, perhaps just by show of hand, how many of you are French here? Yeah. So probably only just 50% of the people here. So yes, the idea is to build a community that can help everyone who is interested in tech and has an interest in tech. And so obviously that's not limited to a nationality. One of the other, sorry, it was quite, was just trying to check. Of course, as we are the French Tech, the idea is also to create awareness among the two countries and connect, tighten the ties between France and Indonesia. And finally, we also have the mission to help all the startups represented in the community, not just French, but all startups represented in the community, with corporate organizations. Corporate organizations are looking for upgrading their tech, getting a little bit more AI and all this, and we have the startups that are doing this. So the idea is to connect the two and be able to benefit for everyone. So that's roughly what we're doing. Community is growing, and I hope that more of you are even joining after today.
And for this, we have many different events that we organize on a very regular basis. So we have a monthly gathering every Thursday. First Thursday is in Jakarta. Third Thursday is in Bali. So if you want to network with like-minded people, don't hesitate to join us. We have every 2 or 3 months, we have a gathering breakfast with the French Chamber of Commerce, where we invite actually experts in some different domains. Last time was AI, the time before was cybersecurity. So we invite them, and we invite IFCCI, the French Chamber, companies to join us, so we can actually achieve our objective of the second objective to put in contact our corporate and our network. And the third one is this annual events that we organize also to create value for our network and to create value for you guys. In 18 months, we have succeeded in creating 300 members network. In this network, there are, of course, entrepreneurs, but there are also all the ecosystem which help the entrepreneur. We have notaris, I was going to say it in English, in Bahasa. Notaris, we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have consultants, we have digital agencies, we have all kind of companies and people who can help actually entrepreneurs to thrive and to create a very good company and startups. So don't hesitate to join us, and I leave the mic to...
Yeah, we're going to give the mic back to Jérôme. So Please enjoy today. It's a busy day. Don't get too comfortable. You're going to be walking quite a bit because after each panel you saw, we're going to get you to go into one of the workshops. So one is here, the two other are on the first floor. So you're going to have some movement and there's some fresh AC as well. So don't worry, we're not going to get you to get sweating for nothing. All right? Thank you, enjoy, and over to you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Reza. Thank you, guys, for today. And indeed, you know, putting through this great community in less than 3 years. We were I guess, the last community to be created among the French tech as a country, right? And you know, you've done quite a bit of heavy lifting. So thank you very much for that. So today, right? So as mentioned, right, it's going to be about people and technology interaction. You know, who is using who, right? Somehow. And for that, we're going to have different panels and different workshops. 3 panels I mentioned, and the first one today going to be, my notes, the new ways of working. And I'm glad to, you know, first intro and then welcome the first moderator on for this panel, Monsieur Simon Verissel. So are you French or Swiss? Because you pretend you are French sometimes, you pretend you are Swiss sometimes. Yes. So stop doing that, right? You know, we want full disclosure here. So Simon Verissel is either French or Swiss. That we don't know. What we know is the managing director of Influence Matters. Influence Matters is basically a PR. You know, he has decades of experience in China. Mostly, if I'm not wrong, right, specializing in, you know, market entry, advocating for brands, either, you know, US or European brands entering the China complex market, or the other way around, right? Chinese company, software company, trying to, you know, trying to get the right face into foreign markets. So he has done that. That's what makes him busy every day. The other thing is, you know, he's also a founding member of French Tech, not the Indonesian one, but the Beijing one in China at that time. So I'm glad and thankful to welcome you, Mr. Simon Verissel, to first join me and then maybe call your panelists and get started. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe we can move the pupitre, the podium. 1, 2, 1, 2. Thank you for this warm introduction. This is not really much about me, so I'm going to move straight to my panelists in a second. We're going to be talking about the adapting to new ways of working during this panel. How organizations, how leaders, and how entrepreneurs, like many of you are, or how remote workers can adapt to the way we are expecting to work today. To help me with this difficult task, I'm going to call my panelists first. Friska, maybe you're going to be sitting wherever you want. Here. I think I'll be sitting here. Florian. And Rémi, the 3 of you, maybe you go on the secretary. I'm going to be sitting here. We have 2 microphones for 1. Thank you for joining me today. We have the microphone over there. So I'll start by a quick introduction of the topic. Obviously, many of us here in Bali are remote workers. As Jérôme introduced, my business is mostly in China. I relocated here a year ago, but I still run the business in China. I travel quite often over there, but it also opened my eyes on how we can work differently, how we don't need to be in an office from 9 to 5 every day, how we don't need to meet with our team members all the time, and how as a leader we need to adapt to the changing working environment. Changing has happened through the advent of technology over the past 20, 25, 30 years with the internet. It's been accelerated through COVID, which we all experienced in different ways. I experienced it in China which wasn't always nice. You experienced this, some of you here, some of you at home in your home countries, and then relocated here, like I did, to find a different environment and work in a different way. So we all have a part to play in how the new ways of working are going to play in the future. And our panelists have a very strong role in that. I'm going to let them to introduce themselves by telling all of you what their role is in adapting to the new ways of working. So I'll start with you, Friska. Professionally, what is your role in how we work today?
I would say I'm all things change. So I'm a catalyst and a guide for organizations to better respond to the changing demands of the future of work. Because it's not just about AI, it's not just automation, it's not just about hybrid workplaces, it's actually about leading differently, being differently, and operating differently. So I manage that process for organizations. And my work really revolves around 3 key pillars. It's about how to co-create and engage change in your business with your people, not doing it to your people. It's about building a culture of resilience, right? There's a lot of talk about change fatigue. We really need to flip that script. It's not about change fatigue anymore. It's going to happen. The only certainties in life are death, life, taxes, death, and now change. So it's a matter of how do you build that resilience, right? How do you shift that momentum? And last but not least, I help cultivate cultures of learning, unlearning, and relearning. So how do you make people want to level up? So that's pretty much my role. So architect, catalyst, guide for organizations wanting to drive and manage change.
Florian?
Hey, thanks for inviting me first. So I would say the role that I'm bringing into this new way of working is mostly through HR. So we're working a lot with HR, boosting their people engagement. So mostly what we do at Midstay, the startup that we are building, is a marketplace for team retreats. So we see that there is a lot of demand for this new way of working, but people are willing to get more flexibility, so going hybrid or remote worker. But the thing is that it brings a lot of challenge. So the challenges are people engagement, mostly, this clash in between generations, so how to connect them, and I would say as well, how to build or rebuild the company culture. So the way that Midstay is bringing that is by bringing people together for a few days, and that brings like team building activities, business workshop, training, mentoring.
Thank you. Rémi?
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for the team also to organize this amazing thing in this cool venue. My name is Remy, and I'm working to helping small, medium, and big companies to understand how AI will change everything in their world, and also to manage the fear the employees can have about that. And I'm helping them through courses, through some courses about AI in video, in text, and in images. So this is my work today.
Thank you. And I'm going to be tapping into all of your expertises for the topic today. I wanted to start with, so we understand that the expectation of both team leaders, entrepreneurs, startups, people who build companies, who build teams, their expectation of the workforce, of the people who are going to be joining their team, and the way how they're going to be working is changing. On the other side, the expectation of the employee, of the worker, is changing too, on what they expect from their employer. So I wanted to ask, maybe first, all 3 of you, how do you see that expectation evolving over the recent couple of years, and how it's going to evolve in the future, as to what an employer and an employee expect from each other, what they expect from each other? Friska, we'll start with you.
I would say employee expectations are higher. I've noticed that here within Indonesia and Australia, where I'm originally from. As you can tell, I'm not French. Especially post-COVID, the employer's responsibility to provide guidance, mentorship, team management, as well as mental health resources, I would say that's rising. And that's very hard to get the balance right, especially if you're a small business. Because if you're a small business, you're doing everything. You're doing sales, you're doing delivery, you're doing operations. So how do you add yet another thing onto your already heavy plate? So that's what I'm noticing.
I'll go in order.
Right. Yeah. So I would say that employee for sure has a much bigger expectation right now. But again, I think it comes back with this generation clash. We really felt this break at the COVID time, where older generation used to go 9 to 5 at the office and kind of missed it after a few months, and others actually took the opportunity to take that on the long run, where it will be quite interesting to see in the future how younger people right now will become manager in the future and how they will implement that for the next workforce. So right now we're still in a phase, I believe, where managers are still, I would say, older, like 40 years old, and they've been working for 20 years or 15 years before on 9 to 5, and they're used to that, they have that routine, they know how to work, and they are maybe afraid of the change as well. But always going to be when actually these younger people will become manager and would like to roll out that to the team. So I think that's, yeah, I guess like it's going to be interesting to see the next years, 10 years coming in, and see how first also with all the new tools coming in, but the generation clash in between and how it's going to work together.
Yeah, this is a crazy thing right now. There is a lot of fear on both sides, on employer side and employees, of course. Because some people say, okay, I want to be remote, but as we can talk after, there is some big companies now, they say, we don't remote work anymore, you know, because there is a big problem about this, about that. As you said, it's a huge clash between generations right now, and the demand is very high for both sides. So we need to work on that to reassure people that AI, that remote work is not bad. It can be bad sometimes, it's true, for certain specific things, but we need to work on that for sure.
So, and that's, you made all three of you an interesting point. Florian, you mentioned that the next 10 years are going to be interesting in seeing how this generation clash plays out. One issue that I see here is that most organizations don't have 10 years to adapt to the new ways of working. That clash needs to happen much faster, and the adaptation from one to the other needs to happen much faster. Prisca, what do you see the main challenges that organizations, maybe on that smaller size, mid-size, where you've got some of those managers that are old school managers, team leaders that like to have their, you know, their meeting in the office at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
or at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
How do you see you know, those challenges playing out right now, and how they can move forward?
So I think the biggest challenge is we think we're very logical, cognitive, fact-based people, but any change, why people resist, it's because they're fearing something and they're fearing loss. And when it comes to those old school managers who are used to measuring hours instead of outcomes, it's very uncomfortable because one of these 6 Ps is at threat. And the first is power, the second is position, third is pay, fourth is performance, the fifth is prestige. So if we don't take the time to understand which of those 5 Ps or one or more of those 5 Ps is driving them to stick to what they already know, we're never going to get the change done faster or better. So I think also, especially in this region, we're not used to having, I would say, spirited, constructive debate. Like we shy away from conflict, we think of it as actually a bad thing, but it's not. So people are not having these come to Jesus moments to decide this is what success looks like for us now. So I think the more we are willing and able to have the conversations that we need to have, not necessarily want to have, the better off we'll be.
How about the employee side? And maybe another one of you two can answer this question. From the employee side, what do they expect from these leaders? How can they work with their leaders to get them to adapt to those new ways of working and help them move faster?
Yeah, but the first is the flexibility. I think we're going to speak about it as well with that new way of working as well with fractional work. But flexibility is a big wealth for them. They're expecting as well. You mentioned mental health during so it's all kind of support and not only like just performance, but they need to feel also part of something. And I think that's a challenge of both actually, because companies also are willing to get a company culture to drive them, but the question is that how to build that together with that new way of working where you feel even more detached than before. But in a way, like these young people don't really want to go at the office every day. So how do you do that?
Well, some companies are obviously not willing to do that. Right now we see it with, I think it's Amazon that 2-3 weeks ago requires everyone to be back in the office 5 days a week, which is surprising coming from a company that builds most of the technology, or a lot of technology that powers remote working with their servers and tools. Do you think that some of those companies are shooting themselves in the foot with their, by keeping a strict in-office work culture? Can they adapt in the future? Are their employees going to be running for the door and, or not running for the door and staying wherever they're working right now and trying to find another employer? Remy, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I remember 2 years ago, there is a crazy thing happened. I don't know if you remind this, but Elon Musk sent an email to his employee at the beginning of the day at Tesla and SpaceX, and the title of the email was, "Remote work is unacceptable." And when you read this email, you're frightened. He literally say, if you're not on the office 40 hours a week, I consider that you quit the job. And when I saw that, I said, what happened? And a lot of people in Tesla and SpaceX leave the company because of that. And in the same way, very recently, as you said, Amazon CEO, the new Amazon CEO, decided exactly the same from January 2025. And he said, you know what? Now, okay, COVID is gone. You need to come back. So there is a huge fight, and I think we need more communication, because right now these people don't listen each other. And this is a real problem, because a lot of studies shows that remote work is very efficient. So what's happening? And yeah, there is a lot of people who leave these companies.
Yeah, just to jump back on this, also I've seen this email. It was like this period where it was called also the Great Resignation in the US. And I think there is also a bigger level view to see there, is that I think companies these days have much more leverage to bring back people at the office, because there is less opportunity on the market. And it's either you go freelance or you go on your own, or you go back to the office, or I mean, you go back full time, and then you choose wisely a company that fits your expectation. But it's a bit less right now in this market, easy to actually find. The leverage came back to the companies, I feel like.
Well, yes, the leverage is coming back to the companies right now, because they're the ones employing, and there's still a lot of people that are ready to go to the office to accept those terms. But I do have a feeling that those terms are not going to carry on for very long. And at one point, you're going to have more workers that are going to demand flexibility, that are going to understand, especially those. I have 3 children that are at school right now, and they're already learning to learn in a different way, to interact with information in a different way, to go to use a computer to learn on YouTube without going to university. The next generation is not going to want to go to the office. The current generation is already looking at what the next generation is going to do and thinking that they need to adapt right now. The old generation, Amazon CEO, might get lost in that. Focusing a bit on those workers, while we were preparing this panel, we talked a little bit about the gig economy. So all of those workers that are going freelance, let's say, or working for themselves, the Gojek delivery, basically those precarious jobs. But I see it more and more as encompassing more, white-collar jobs. Those CFOs, you have a lot of fractional CFOs, you have a lot of fractional CMOs, you have freelancers, and they all seem to go under the gig economy now. How do you, all 3 of you, define what the gig economy is today? And do you include anyone who's working for him or herself and selling that time, that service, to bigger companies or any employer?
I define the gig economy as on-demand employment. So a fractional executive, they may or may not be in the gig economy. If they're permanent part-time, that's not the gig economy. If they're called in every once in a while, then yes, that is. And I think it's risen in prominence because people want more control over where, when, how much they work. And we've seen, you know, especially during COVID, so speaking from Australia, people that had been so loyal for decades just kicked out the door as soon as times were down. So I think that woke a lot of people up, and they thought, I'm not going to rely on this employer anymore to put a roof over my head, to pay my rent, to put food on the table. I want more control. So I think that it is rising now, and especially as the rate of digitization increases, jobs that you couldn't do if you weren't in the office are now suddenly possible. So a lot of people are taking that opportunity.
Any different perspective from both of
Perfectly
you?
defined, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. The gig economy at the beginning has bad press, I would say, as you said, because it was very... There is a lot of problem about it, to be honest, because some markets are completely disrupted, such is probably good for people, but also sometimes there is some problems about it, because we saw a lot of companies doing bad with their employees because they are in the gig economy. What do you mean? You need to respect some rules at the minimum. So we need to be careful, but you're right, I think the fractional workers can be included also, for me, but it's very different because they have normally a better, how can I say, not better work, it's not what I mean, but you know what I mean, they have better conditions.
Yeah, because then you can include that Upwork and Fiverr then, but CMO, fractional CMO and CFO are to me like the upper level of set of skills. That's also why to me it was not super clear that if we could actually bring them in one case or the other. We could also argue that they are actually freelancer and giving their services. But I think all comes back to this growth of new fractional persons, come back to the flexibility of work, the willing to have more freedom and not being attached to one thing. We also see, and based on what we are doing, we see that at Midstay, this clash of generations comes back all the time as well, because young people, young workers are willing as well to break the routine and so have like different career paths and growth. And if a company can offer that within a big company, then some people are actually finding it interesting. But otherwise, like fractional work is actually a great way of doing, because then you're actually working on a lot of different sets and projects. And that's actually what I did at the very beginning of my career. I was a UX UI designer, product designer, and I used to work every 3 to 6 months for companies in San Francisco, New York, Australia, and that's always what challenged me and brought me a kind of drive in the growth of the career, and I was not attached to one single company. It then comes back to something else, actually. It's like, for a company perspective, how do you build a company culture with people?
Well,
like
that was my next question. From the employee perspective, it's kind of an easy decision. It's your decision to either become a remote worker, a fractional worker, a gig worker, whatever we want to call it. It's a decision. Then it's up to you to go sell yourself and find an employer there. On the employer side, sometimes when you want to, you have to build kind of a hybrid workforce of people who are in the office all day, but maybe you don't find enough, or you want to work with a more hybrid system. You integrate those fractional workers into your organization. What's the challenge there for the managers that are not used to that, to integrate them together? And how can that happen?
I think willingness of the people to be part of the company as well. I mean, you can't force someone that is a fractional worker to be part of a company that is not really 100%. So I think that's also like, I guess, the role they have in the company and how they fit in. But I think also companies find it interesting in a way, because they are not having it in their payroll anymore. So it's much more flexible for them as well. But then indeed, like, all comes back to that company culture. And I think employees are maybe less looking of a company culture or a feel of unity, rather than companies are looking to have that, to bring their vision forward, to bring the mission, the core value forward. And that needs to be forwarded to the employees. Otherwise, it's just the upper management that carry it, and that's not really working.
Friska, do you work with some companies, some leaders that are trying to integrate fractional workers, freelancers in existing teams and bringing them into their culture?
Yes, they are. And I think the point that I want to make is onboarding some paid fractional exec is non-negotiable, especially as we're in a hybrid work. We just said communication is an issue. Technology's gone like this, communication hasn't. And it's harder today because, believe it or not, our ability to absorb information, it's actually plummeted to 2.5 times less than pre-pandemic levels. Like, we're constantly bombarded with information, 40,000 marketing messages a day. Like, we're expected to do more and more and more, but with less. And so people are frazzled, their attention spans are not there, and so we actually need to do more communication. Like, we need to keep on repeating and build understanding gradually. It's the same with culture. Like, don't assume it. You have to first define it, then you create it, and lastly, you enforce it. And the way you enforce it is bringing the conversation alive. Like, once in an induction for 3 hours is not enough. It's that regularity that helps build trust and consistency and gives you that strong culture.
So it's interesting, and you've mentioned, I'm going to go into that right now, technology. Obviously, this is the French Tech, and we work a lot around technology. We are going to be talking about AI, of course, because it's mandatory to talk about AI in any conference about any topic these days. But I want to talk about technology on a grander scheme. I mentioned in the introduction that remote working, fractional working, the gig economy, new ways of working is powered by technology. It's powered by internet. Before anything else, obviously AI is built on the internet. We are in a shift, massive shift period, due to technology and due to AI, that's been pushed by COVID because we had to work remote. Even organizations that didn't want to, they had to work remote, and they had to implement video conferencing system. Most companies did not have a company-wide video conferencing system before COVID, and within 2 months everyone had Zoom. And then Microsoft did wonders with Teams, and the system very fast. It was lagging behind, and it's one of the greatest after that. Once we get back to trying to get back to normal for some companies, that we're looking at implementing, or organizations are looking to implement tools like Teams, Slack, like AI that's embedded in all of these platforms right now. We see a lot of challenges of companies, same for the generational issues. Where do you see those challenges now as companies are trying to adapt to technology, to a younger generation that is, they're AI natives, I think we could call the next generations that's coming out, the ones that are in university right now. How can organizations implement that technology now so they can work better together while keeping that company culture that they're trying to build at the same time? And let's start with Rémi, who's our AI specialist on the panel.
Thank you. I think right now with a lot of companies I'm working for, I see two major issues about this topic. The first one is the fear of employees. A lot of them say to their company, okay, you want to implement AI, but do you will replace us? What it will happen, So they're very scary about that. And the second issue is a lot of companies think that AI is magical. AI will solve every problems. You touch a button and that's it. And of course, it's not like that. So when I work with companies, when I'm training them, their employees and the directors, the managers, and they always say, oh, we can do that with this tool, we can do that with that tool. I said, yes, but can you implement in your situation? And in 90% of the time, it's not possible that way. So we need to work together to train, to understand how they have the data, how they work right now. So this is the two major issues I can see right now on several companies, and it can be on SMBs, small companies, and also on big companies.
Yes, we certainly see it also as a small company ourselves. We have people in 2 different offices and some remote people, and just integrating the same tools, working on the same tools together, understanding and having that knowledge of the tool that grows together. So when one person talks about using a tool, the other one is not completely lost. It's complicated. I can't imagine this in an organization of tens of thousands of people. I think, Friska, when we prepared, you mentioned, I'll read it, that AI is a change that must be planned for, managed, and led carefully. And the question was, what are the non-negotiable or common mistakes that you see in organizations implementing
To echo
AI?
your point, not speaking a common language, but the way to explain it most succinctly and articulately, there's a framework that I've created. It's called the 4S, and it stands for support, skills, systems, and structures. Implementing any change, AI, culture, structure, etc., needs these 4 quadrants. The first is obviously support. Any transformation needs to be backed, endorsed, sponsored at the very top. And when I say sponsored, it's not just literally signing a budget, like leadership team need to live and breathe it, because role modeling is a very powerful influence of behavioral change. Number 2 is skills. We talked just then about the generation gap. Sure, the natives are all over it, but remember the people that are Generation X or baby boomers, they're really scared because no one wants to look stupid. So we have to provide practice opportunities, whether that's a sandpit environment, whether every week you have a lunch and learn on a particular tool. So how do you help build them the skills? And by the way, skills is very different from information, right? Just because I read a book on how to become the world's greatest golfer, it doesn't mean I'm going to beat Tiger Woods next week.
I tried.
Right? My handicap's shit, by the way. The third point is about structures. So how do you integrate AI use, tools, etc., into just how people work today? Whether it's putting it in their job descriptions, whether it's putting it in performance improvement plans, something needs to reflect that this tool is just how you do business. And lastly, systems, right? AI is all about garbage in, garbage out. If your data is crap, your algorithms will be crap. So that means you need systems continuously measure, monitor how the algorithm is performing. And same with change management. You need to constantly measure how engaged people are. Are they understanding what I'm saying? Do they have the skill sets? So implementing anything is not a set and forget process. It needs regularity and constant refinement.
Do you have any examples of companies that implemented it well or are implementing it well right now? Or the opposite? Any one of you?
Yeah, I can share an example about Aigle. It's a very huge, close French company. And at the beginning, it was not very good, to be honest. And we tried to change that. So now they decided to train the directors, the managers, to understand what's the problem exactly, what we want to achieve with AI. And now it's getting better. But at the beginning, as I said, they thought that it was maybe a little bit magical. And we see that a lot of times, so yeah.
So I know Egg to be a rather big company, and it poses so many questions, and I can see so many challenges with any big company. Obviously, it's going super fast. AI, there's a new tool coming out every day. Every time there's a new model, then one gets better than the other, and you kind of want to shift from one to the other. How can a company stay on top? Because you can't have an AI specialist who's day in, day out, reading, testing, trying, implementing, and the next day you need to implement a new one. What is the secret sauce there to build an AI native or a technology native? Because it works for every company, every technology. What is the secret sauce? How do you get a company to go through the years without having an IT manager who's training everyone and retraining everyone all the time?
It's complicated right now, so it's why now we have some managers dedicated to AI in some companies. It's coming. It's coming. Of course, it's not small companies, but it's happening. And this person needs to explain and to make some courses to train people in the company. I think it's a good idea. Sometimes it can be someone already in the company to their job, daily job. But I think the most important thing now is not implementing, is understanding what you can do, what you can't do. I think it's the most important.
It takes a lot of time, though. I'm looking at smaller companies again. I'll take my example. We're a team of about 15 people. We focus, PR agency that focuses on technology, so we're all kind of geeks. I'm a proper geek. But I have other things to do than to look at all the new AI tools that are coming out. And maybe I'll ask the other two to answer that if you've got a perspective. What would you advise those team leaders which would be myself and one or two of my team leaders, to do to keep abreast of whatever's happening and implementing some of the technology? Should we focus on one and say, okay, we're going to focus on this one or these five and implement those? But knowing myself, I know the next day I say, ooh, this looks nice.
Me? Okay. This is a challenge. People get attracted to the next shiny new thing. You don't need the next shiny new thing. Have you fully leveraged what you already have? Newer isn't necessarily better, and I think we'd be a lot better off if we simply increase the capability and proficiency of our people to use the tools that they already have. So for example, my girlfriend is an absolute whiz on PowerPoint. Like, she can do things in Canva in PowerPoint. Do I want to learn? No, not really. But what tools in your organization that are already good enough? You don't always need to be upgrading to the latest iPhone, right? So it's the same with organization. So, and I think you need to start with the end in mind. What is the outcome that you want? Sometimes the newest tool is not going to get you there.
No.
I'm the same shoes as you. I have a team of 15 people as a CEO. I'm also looking to implement things, and so I think it's also a big question of how much investment you want to bring in, because there is a lot of things to do on the side as well. And I mean, for us, what we did is identifying the places where we are losing a lot of time, and that's very repetitive. So that's the place where we can get the most out of it without going everywhere and trying to get everything automated. So that's the place we are at. One tool I'm using a lot, and I'm also asking all team members to do, is that as we are all remote, we are a fully distributed team all across Asia, but also in Europe. Everyone should use an AI note taker that allows us just to jump back on the notes, and that creates like summaries. You can ask anything that brings back the insights. So even when you're like with different clients, you can get an insight across all of them. When you are on specific client, you can get back things that they really want. So I think that helps us a lot, and I think that's the best use case scenario we have so far with this, yeah.
So I wanted to go after, and it's kind of the last topic of this panel, which is the drawbacks and the benefits of working with technology, AI in particular, but any technology. All three of you, what do you see right now the biggest challenges that the technology is bringing to organization?
Maybe the fight between different perception of the thing, because as I said, a lot of people are very scary about what's happening right now. And I can understand them, because I was a web marketer before, and when I see my job 10 years ago, I know that I can do the same part of the same job with maybe 10 times less time, you know? And for me, it's crazy, because you can see it both ways. It can be a good way, okay, I can do more, but you can also say, okay, maybe a lot of companies will need less now. So for me, this is always a fight between, I love technology, I'm really, really keen for that, but sometimes maybe we go too far, too fast. Especially about AI, there is a lot of big scientists, big entrepreneurs, say maybe we need to wait a little bit, it's going too far, too fast. So this is a huge question of the civilization, really. It's really a civilization thing now, so we need to address that.
No, I mean, this comes back again with what I was, in my shoes, being a CEO of a startup and having raised like a very minimum funds. We are really acting as a bootstrapped company, and so it's really about where to go and minimize the cost and actually maximize the outcome. So everything is double thought all the time, and we don't want to like invest too much. We did actually invest too much, and we found out that it was worthless, and we didn't gain as much as we thought. So yeah, like more in the shoes of developing this tool, having the opportunity to go in the past, but trying to always double questioning ourselves to see if there is a proper outcome and if it's actually really valuable right now, and if there is nothing else maybe to prioritize first.
Obviously, we're at a tech conference. Everybody's very concerned about their tech stack. I think there's not enough attention paid to who's in your people stack, right? If you picture an actual people stack, like giant human Jenga blocks stacked on top of each other, if you remove the wrong block, the wrong skills, the wrong mindset, your company is going to come crumbling down. And in a people stack, there's usually 4 main archetypes. The first are the nostalgia seekers. So these are people that didn't grow up in a digital environment. They're usually baby boomers, and coming from a mining background, all the board members fell into this bucket. They were male, pale and stale, right? And they were constantly reminiscing about what worked for them in their glory days 30 to 40 years ago. And this means they're limited by any opportunities and possibilities AI can bring because they're only looking at things from a past. And then we move on to the next block, which is the reflexive skeptic. So as its name suggests, anything new, innovation, growth, their first word is but. But we've always done it this way. But our customers want this. But our budget does that. So again, limited. Then we get a little bit more optimistic. We have the frustrated enthusiasts. So these are people that are really driven, want to innovate, but they're not set up for success. And when I say not set up for success, they don't have a budget, they don't have a mandate, they don't have a sponsor, and maybe they don't have the technical skills. And last but not least, we have the younger generation, right? The digital change makers. These are people who know their stuff, they're ready to drive change in a big way and advance their career as a byproduct, right? They have a budget, they have a mandate, they've got really strong relationships throughout the business, and they're ready to roll. Now, you may be thinking, I want everybody to be a digital change maker. But it's not about elimination, it's not about eliminating one, because believe it or not, the nostalgia seekers have a lot to give, they have a lot of wisdom, they have a lot of experience, so it's not about getting rid of them, but what is the optimal balance of those 4 archetypes that you need in your business so you make the right decisions?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was in a conference a couple weeks ago that had a similar topic, and that was looking at 2 different types of people here, the older generation, the younger generation, or those who understand technology, which is the younger generation, and the ones who understand a bit less and are going to think more in terms of productivity when they look at a tool. We see a lot of companies, if not all of the companies, when they present their AI-enhanced solution, to present it as a more productive solution. You'll get more for less. That's how it's sold by most companies. When you're an employee in that organization, what you hear is, oh, wait, my company wants me to do less, but produce more. So what am I going to do? Am I going to work more? Am I going to work the same amount of time? Am I going to work less time and be paid less to generate as much as I did before? What should the message from those...
Exactly. What's their view? What they want to do with it? So when they don't talk about it too much, they just push a new tool and they say, you need to use that. In general, it doesn't work very well. So we need to train, to explain things, as my counterparts say, more communication again and again. It's crazy, but it's always that.
I see it, again, in my processes. There's some things that 10 years ago would take PR agency, we draft press releases or articles, for example. 10 years ago, the first draft would take 6 hours, right? Do the research, find the information, and write something. Now it takes about 6 seconds, right? Prompt, if you know how to do a decent prompt, and that's not too complicated, and you've got this article. It's a decent draft, you still need to do a bit of work behind, but you saved 6 hours on it. Now, I can see from ourselves, and I can see from my team members, that once this is done, I've saved all these hours. Do I need to move right away to the next project? Am I going to do 8 projects in a day when 10 years ago I was doing 1 project? Or is this the expectation from my boss, from my leader, to do all of that when there's not a communication? What else could leaders do with all of that time gained?
First, I want to make another point. I think the point is it's about augmentation, not replacing. So like I said, people are scared of the new and foreign, so you need to make it clear we're introducing this not to get rid of you, but to actually stop you doing the grunt work, help you do more higher thinking, higher value adding tasks. That's good for your own personal development as well. And I think I don't want to beat around the bush. Yes, AI will get rid of some jobs. That's just a fact of life. So I think the sooner that we realize it and look on the bright side, the silver lining is it's going to create about $75 million worth more to the economy, right? It's going to create new jobs, different jobs. And if you've got the right people and you want to support them to do that different job, then you need to invest in them and train them. At the end of the day, with the advent of AI, some people may not fit in your business anymore, and that's okay. And that's completely okay. You don't need to take everybody on the bus. Some people do not want to. Well, some people don't want, so they're not interested in learning something new. They had a cushy 9-to-5 job doing their thing, they're not interested. And that's totally okay. Not everybody's going to stay with your organization to the very end. Let them find another opportunity that better aligns with what they want. And then you'll find someone that's even better for your business. So don't be afraid to say goodbye to people that don't match your culture.
The gain of productivity is something that I think a lot. I see how, let me see. The productivity gained, the time gained, I think a lot about how we can use that time. So you mentioned also they can focus on something grander. In our business, it could be focused more on the strategy rather than creating content. A challenge that I see with that is a lot of companies say, well, we can replace interns. We don't need interns anymore because we don't need someone to do all of that research anymore. The challenge that I see is that if we don't hire interns, if we don't hire junior level people and train them in a skill that can be replaced somehow by artificial intelligence, those people won't grow into managers that will understand if what the AI outputs is good or bad. And we're going to lose some professions completely. We're going to lose some skills that we might need to use AI all the time. Are we going to lose in the quality of things? I can think of coding for the same thing. If you don't know how to code, how can you think of a product? You don't need to know how to code to develop a program right now, but you still need to think like a programmer to be able to design the program. What's your take on that, all three of you? Are we losing skills in the future that we'll need to relearn?
The thing is, someone who has already these skills will be augmented by AI, so it will be better than someone who don't know. Because, for example, if you have two people, me, for example, I'm very low-level developer. You know, I know the basics. And if you have the best one in the world, and if we are using AI together, of course, he will have a better program at the end than me, because he understands every specific areas of it. And I will just be on top, you know. So I think AI will, of course, impact a lot of jobs for several reasons, but the people who are already good will be better also. So, and maybe the very bad one can have a better level also. I saw that.
But, so my focus is more on those who already have the skills can be enhanced. That's for sure. Those who don't have the skills don't need to learn the skills anymore because the AI is going to do it for them, and then they might have an N+1 who has the skills and who's going to say, yes, this is good, no, this is not good, and will rework the thing. But then that one that doesn't have the skill is not learning the skill, and we're losing it. When that one that has retires, who takes over?
I think it's all about willingness to learn as well. As you were mentioning, it's if people don't want to take the train, they will not take the train. But if people are learning through actually the AI and wants to go to the next milestone, it's still possible as well.
Yeah, I echo what they said. It really depends. It's like a piece of string. Because, for example, long division. A lot of people can't do long division anymore, but they have a calculator. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's not a valuable skill, but it's been completely replaced by a digital format. It's the same with skills. It depends on the skill. I think the ones that can't be AI'd are ones that are about human judgment, empathy, human nature, as much as the tech companies may like us to believe otherwise.
Okay, one last question about how technology is maybe dividing us or dividing teams. since we don't need to be working face-to-face all the time, we kind of miss that human connection. Do you think that technology can also closer together, or we need to use, for example, a productivity gain to go on working trips together, team buildings together, and we can counteract this distance that technology brings by using the productivity gain to see each other more often.
Yeah, I think there was a question that I had just before when we were speaking about gain productivity. I really wonder, and I don't have the data, how many companies are actually looking at the gain productivity to reduce their cost on the market to gain more clients, or to actually use that hours saved to build a better team and invest in their own company, but then keeping the same kind of pricing. So that I don't know, but indeed, like at Midstay, we see that there is a growing demand on that because of the challenge of bringing people together, the challenge of boosting people engagement, because it's so hard actually to do that through screens. So yeah, I guess like this to us, I mean, that's what I'm building, so I trust in that. But I believe this is gonna keep growing, and we're gonna keep having that challenge of not having that physical interaction, and that's still needed these days if you're working with humans.
It's a good point, and something that I had to discuss with a prospect, discussing a quotation, where some of the activities that I was talking about before that we can now do in a lot less hours, where as a consulting business we charge by the hour, and we are in the middle of rethinking how we charge, because charging by the hour now doesn't make any sense. We need to think about how we charge by the result, by the deliverable, and then explaining to a client less on the deliverable, but we're spending maybe 5 more hours together to work together as a team, so you still get a good team that is going to understand your business for better results. And I think it's a shift that the whole industries, all of the industries need to go through when they're delivering something. Any closing remarks on the topic before I open the floor to questions?
Just that technology is not a replacer for real relationships and real connection. The business travel industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry still, even post-COVID, because how we connect, relate, strengthen trust and rapport with people is seeing the whites of their eyes. And that's why you may start online, but people want to transition offline as fast as possible.
Yeah, we have a great example here, isn't it? We are here together.
No, we do have a great example, and one of the things, I know some of them are looking at me in Beijing and Shanghai, my team members. One of the things that we hope to do soon is to be able to bring the team once in a while here to Bali, to work together. And that would be a great enhancement of our team life, team culture, all powered by technology and the possibility to remote work like we do. I will now open the floor to questions. If you have any questions, you've been waiting for half an hour for your question. Pass the microphone. There. Here.
Hi, Benjamin Castillo. I'm running New World Together. It's an organization focusing on global sustainability. And one of the things we study notably is how technology in many ways has brought us many positive things, but it has also accelerated a rat race that is bringing us on the verge of planetary disaster, to say the least. How do you make sure that the way you work, the technology you implement, is actually feeding something that is part of the solution, that is heading us more toward regeneration of the planet ecosystems and ourselves, rather than part of the problem, something that's going to accelerate this rat race toward the bottom?
But yeah, to me, we are working with Midstay a lot on the human, on like how they connect together, and even though it's true actually a tech-powered platform, at the end it's people meeting together. So yeah, like on my own, I would say initiative, that's how we do. It's like just connecting closer to people, even though you're using the tool to bring these people together.
Thank you for the question, first of all. It's always a fight inside me, what you just asked. because I'm using AI every day for a lot of things, and I think, okay, I'm using this, but I know the impact behind. But I was in Web3 before, and it was exactly the same problem. We said, yeah, it uses energy, it uses electricity, it impact, of course. There is no question about it. But also, as you said, we can see every day a lot of new projects who add value to things for health, for education, for work. So you're right. This is for me, it's one of my key things because I need to say, okay, I'm using AI, but why and how? Is it possible sometimes to using something else less consuming? But it's a huge problem. You're right now. As I said before, for me, this technology thing is a change in culture, in society, to be honest. So we need to talk about it.
Last but not least, I would say know what success looks like. It's not just about profit, but what's the impact on planet and purpose as well. So that needs to be considered at the very beginning. Like we all know what the UN SDG goals are. You know, which ones are we ticking off by doing this? Is the positive net impact greater than the cost that it will take to get there? So yeah, leaders need to be aware of it, they need to consider it, and they need to be measuring it.
Thank you.
Hello guys, thank you first to La French Tech Indonesia for this opportunity, and thank you guys for this conversation. I have a question related to when it comes to applying AI to a company or adopting AI to a company. Are we talking about it takes CEO spreading to the executives, hey guys, read the news and that's it? Or are we ready to talk about chief AI executive? Are we talking about like AI departments, or we just allow the executives to take care of this, like individually? If that makes sense.
It depends the size of the company in general. For example, big companies now, as I said previously, they hired someone specific for this type of job. Now there is not a ton, but there is a lot of jobs around the world. For medium and small companies, of course, it's not possible because it's too expensive, to be honest. Now they're hesitating because they're still in the training and understanding how it works. So, oh, sorry for the last one. It's too early for them and too expensive. So they try to contact me or someone else to help them to have courses, training, and to help their own employees and the direction, the managers, to understand what they can do and what they can't do. And after that, they implement it. So it depends the size of the company.
Anyone else?
So maybe one thing on that, because I had an interesting conversation with you. I think, though it's companies, I mean employees, right? Employees, most of us are using AI. In my company, you know, same, right? Same size, less than 50 people. All of them are using AI, but the company doesn't. It's like the Zoom, and the, you know, Zoom was a product was forbidden by the IT managers, and yet it was adopted by the, you know, the individuals. So I guess, I mean, my reflection on what you just said is the people are using AI, but there is no governance for AI in companies. That's what is missing, isn't it? So it's from me, right? It's already into the company. The company just doesn't know it and doesn't govern it, which most probably going to be the next thing in terms of privacy, confidentiality, data you are getting out, and so on and so forth. Any view on that from your side?
Yeah, exactly. This is a huge problem because even the company who say we don't use AI, of course, as you said, employees using it, but sometimes they hide it because the company say, you know, you cannot use this tool because of this, because of the customer, etc. Sometimes I ever saw a contract with a company, another company said you cannot use AI for this specific job. It's crazy, but it's like that. So yeah, the thing is there is a difference between all the employees using AI for very specific things and implementing AIs inside the company for a very big project. For example, logistics. For example, asking datas. You know, we talk about the RAG, so it's too bit technical now, but There is a lot of things about that, but you're right. It's crazy because every employee using it, and sometimes the manager and the directors say, no, we don't want to use it because it's complicated. Because we have problem also of confidentiality, security. They're very afraid of that, and they're right, to be honest. So yeah.
I'd agree with what he said. There is no kind of holistic approach. There's a scattergun approach. If we go back to the 4 S's that I talked about, support, skills, systems, structures, there's no structures and systems yet. There are skills, but usually it's concentrated in particular departments. So, speaking of my previous experience, all I did was implement AI tools, AI solutions, predictive algorithms, optimization models. They were very heavily concentrated in a small number of users. Now the challenge after that, and the mandate after that, was to develop a digital curriculum for everybody. And we're talking about 15,000 people. So I think that's the next step. What are those base fundamental tools that are AI driven that everybody in your organization should know? And again, that takes time, that takes effort, it takes money, it takes people to make that curriculum happen, so.
And it takes training. I think we're done for the panel today, but I want to give Rémi the opportunity to introduce a bit the workshop that you're doing a bit later today on AI, which I think would be very interesting for some of you to join if you want to learn more about AI and how to implement in your organization. You've got a minute.
Yeah, I think it's very soon. We have a workshop just there, if you want, with Benoit Raphael, who's here. Thank you, Benoit. And yeah, we will present you some tools. And yeah, if you want to share, if you want to ask new questions, very specific, don't hesitate to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other question here before we are moving? Okay.
Prisca, Florian, Rémi, thank you very much for joining this panel, joining the French Tech. On to the next one.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, guys. We got some present for you, I guess, right? To Anne is running. It's cool to see Anne running. Yep. So thank you, guys, once again, for your time and the insights. Very complete and holistic, different, point of views, which is great always. And yeah, please, thank you very much. Picture. Anyone want to do a picture? Professional, I mean.
No, you prefer when I sit? Standing or standing? No, this is a camera. This is not
a camera. Okay. Any photographer? Or we cannot stay here? Yeah. Anyone with an iPhone can help.
There.
Thank you. Amazing. Thanks for your help. Okay, guys. So see you very soon. So I'm gonna ask Anne also to join me again, please. Right? For now, do we have a break before the workshop?
No,
we don't. So we're gonna just, throughout the day, you have 3 workshops, right? So 3 workshops. One, I just introduced the workshop titles, or
okay, yeah, I can take over from me. Okay, so now for the next 45 minutes, we are going to run 3 workshops in parallel. You will have 3 times these 3 workshops running in parallel. So you have the opportunity to visit all 3 of these workshops. However, there are workshops, so we will be able to get only 15, 20 people at the same time. So I will introduce the workshops, but once it's done, go and get something to drink if you want to, and then rush to the workshops before the rooms are full. So the 3 workshops are, we have the first one here, which is on next-gen AI insights. So we have Rémi, who was just here, our AI expert, and Benoit, another AI expert, who will be on the next panel. And they will showcase some of the most advanced and the newest AI applications with all the new AI technology that has been coming out over the next few months. So that's here, around 15 people will be able to sit down. Then we have another 2 workshops upstairs. So you need just to take the stairs there, go up, up, up. The first one is in this area here. There are labels, so you'll be able to see other signs. And it's called the, sorry, I don't have the conscious evolution collage. Yep, sorry, that's a typo. And so that will be with Ben. With Ben. And this one will be much more practical. You will be asked to really work and think and build together around all the different interconnected challenges around sustainability. And throughout the days, the 3 groups, the 3 workshops will be building on each other's work, so that at the end of the day, we'll have a big collage, a big fresque with the challenges and the potential solutions that we'll be able to present at the end of the day. Okay? So that's happening just here, and a little bit further, so that's around here. So you go the same way. That will be a workshop on building AI-powered workforce. And so you will have 3 tech companies that will show how, with technology, we were speaking about this earlier, right? The challenge is how do we upskill people with all the technology? And so technology is helping with this. And so they will show how AI is helping people to learn new skills as well. And so you will have some demonstrations and be able to give questions. All right, all clear? So 1, 2, 3 upstairs.
One additional point of what you mentioned, right? If you want a taste of each, it's perfectly possible, right? So you can start with workshop 1, move to workshop 2 for the next
At the next one, not
at the next one, yeah, of course, not in the middle of the session, except if you really do dislike it. Good job. But it's about, you can have a taste, you can follow up, you go same 3 workshops, 1 of each. It's up to you people, as long as we have 15 participants, around that for each workshop.
Yeah, for the collage one, we have 16 maximum possible. So the other ones, if you can manage to grab a seat or stand around. Right. If there's no more space, you can just network, have drinks, and that's fine. Okay?
Run.
All right. See you later.
Run. The best one gonna be taken fast. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome back for the people in front of me, for the people joining or following us on VOC Adventures in Singapore and France, right? Because we are lucky enough to have some French chapters in France to follow this event on the broadcast. So. Few words, right, guys? Just to make sure that we are continuing this exciting day, 2024, the French Tech Summit in Indonesia. So for the 3rd edition, and it's time to recognize the incredible connections that bind us only through technology, but through diplomacy and culture. As our co-president mentioned earlier today, Anne Reza. La French Tech is more than just a network. It's a part of a broader ecosystem, and it proudly stands as a member of what we call the Team France, alongside with the French Embassy, Economic Mission, French Chamber of Commerce, and I met someone from the Alliance also. So guys, thank you very much for coming over. And so just to name a few, I most probably forgot a few team players. Together, these entities work tirelessly to foster innovation and support French businesses in Indonesia, and this collaboration is what makes events like that possible today. It's deeply rooted here in Indonesia and today in Bali, a place that has welcomed us with open arms. Thank you very much for that. There is many reasons why so many of us have chosen to build and create here, and one of the most important is the warmth of the people of Indonesia. Bali, with its rich cultural heritage and the kindness of its inhabitants, makes us feel at home and inspire us to collaborate and innovate in ways that we never thought possible. So with that in mind, it's my honor to welcome two very special guests. First, please join me in welcoming His Excellency Fabien Penon, Ambassador of France to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and ASEAN, to the stage.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Hello everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be with you today for this third annual summit of the French Tech Indonesia community. I already had the pleasure of attending the second edition held last year in Jakarta. And I know that you're switching from Jakarta to Bali and vice versa. As you know, the reinforcement of the relations between France and Indonesia is a key priority of the French government in every field. By the way, next year we will celebrate the 75th anniversary of our bilateral relationship, so we will give another impetus to the partnership between our two countries. To showcase the importance of this partnership, as you may know, the French President Macron, had recently a very important working dinner with President-elect Prabowo, just 2 days before the opening of the Olympics ceremony. It was a very important opportunity to discuss our bilateral priority to set new orientations for our cooperation. Business and tech cooperation is part of this partnership. And we consider there is a huge economic potential between our two countries, not only on business, but also on technologies cooperation. Indonesia stands as the largest economy and digital economy in Southeast Asia, while France is one of the leading economies in Europe and the 7th most important economic power globally. We have a very dynamic tech economy in France. Just to give you some figures, the French president set a goal in 2019 of having 25 unicorns in 2025. We achieved this goal as soon as 2022, and France now counts 30 unicorns. This is obviously first the result of the dynamism of the French entrepreneurs, but I think this is also the result of the French ecosystem that facilitates the creation and growth of startups. Here in Indonesia, as it was said before, we can count on the French tech community, both in Bali and Jakarta, which is a sort of gateway between the French tech and the Indonesian tech ecosystems. Last June, for instance, the French Tech Indonesia helped with the organization of a visit of an Indonesian delegation to Paris, made of representatives of the Ministry of Information and Communication, of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as approximately a dozen of having any teachers. Just an example of what we could do to connect the French and the Indonesian ecosystem thanks to the French tech. In parallel, obviously, the French government is also supporting the reinforcement of this tech cooperation. We just focus on two aspects. The first one, we are developing our education, cooperation, and student exchange mobility. As you know, we have leading universities and schools, both in private and public sectors, in the fields of IT, digital, and creative economy. IGDX today also is another example of an important gathering for us with a big French delegation, I think the biggest one. Cominfo recently signed an agreement with our agency to promote students' mobility called Campus France. We also signed an agreement with the Indonesian Endowment Fund for Education Agency to co-finance scholarships program for masters fully taught in English in French universities. So these are the very example of tools we are developing to better connect our two tech system, starting from the education level. The second point I just wanted to raise is also what we are doing to facilitate mobility. French tech visas are, for instance, available for foreign funders, investors, and employees to see, because this is important for us, to have more Indonesian tech entrepreneurs and capital ventures maybe starting to develop their activities in France. We are a very welcoming ecosystem, so we would be very happy to have more Indonesians also in France. To conclude, I would like to wish you a very fruitful discussion. You had already very interesting discussion this morning on the future of work. I think here in France, as well as in Indonesia, we are working on these questions because this is evolving very quickly. Be sure that for the French embassy, we will keep on supporting you in the development of the French tech, but also in the cooperation between the Indonesian and the French tech. So thank you so much. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, sir, for your support and these words. Now, I was mentioning, right, French Tech Indonesia. It's also about Indonesia. So it's my pleasure to welcome, sorry for my poor pronunciation, you know, my English is not better anyway. So, Made Bapak, Made Sudasana, right? Is it correct to say so? Right. And executive staff, the governor of Bali, regarding the development of human resources and culture. So if you don't mind to come over and share a bit with us.
Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian yang saya hormati, I'm sorry, I speak in Indonesia. Sebelumnya mohon permakluman bahwa Bapak Gubernur Bali saat ini tidak bisa hadir bersama-sama kita karena kesibukan beliau yang luar biasa, sehingga beliau menugaskan saya untuk membacakan sambutannya.
Distinguished guests and all the participants of today's event, please do forgive us due to the conflicting schedules and the unavailability of His Excellency Governor Sang Made Mahendra, that he's unable to be here today. But he already delegated and entrusted me to read his opening remarks on his behalf. Thank you.
Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, Rahayu, Rahayu, Rahayu. Yang saya hormati Bapak Fabien Venon, Duta Besar Prancis untuk Indonesia, para Co-Presiden French Tech Indonesia, para inovator dari Bali, Prancis, dan wilayah lainnya yang hadir pada hari ini, serta para hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia. Pertama-tama marilah kita tak henti-hentinya mengaturkan puja astuti angayu bahagia ke hadapan Ida Sang Yang Widiwasa, Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena berkat beliaulah kita bersama-sama dapat hadir hari ini pada acara French Tech Summit 2024 dalam keadaan sehat dan berbahagia.
Please, as a collective, we may offer our sincere gratitude and our prayers to the Almighty God for allowing us to be here today in such joyous occasions, French Tech Summit 2024.
Saya sangat mengapresiasi penyelenggaraan acara ini di Bali yang menjadi wadah bagi para pelaku inovasi di bidang teknologi dari berbagai belahan dunia untuk berkolaborasi, bertukar pengetahuan, dan menggagas inisiatif baru yang inovatif di Bali.
I truly appreciate the chance and opportunity to be witnessing and to have this event to be held in Bali, where all innovators can gain insight, exchange ideas, and to gain more understanding about how to pursue such things in Bali.
Bali sebagai salah satu pusat kebudayaan dan pariwisata dunia sangat berbangga dapat menjadi tuan rumah dari pertemuan yang luar biasa ini.
We, the Balinese people, on their behalf, of course, we are very proud to be able to have this event be held here in Bali. Thank you.
French Tech yang telah berhasil membangun komunitas global dengan jangkauan yang luas, memiliki visi yang sejalan dengan semangat kami di Bali dalam mendorong kolaborasi dan inovasi sebagai bagian dari pembangunan berkelanjutan.
La French Tech has showed us that it's possible to build a sustainable, long-lasting ecosystem where such endeavor is possible to gain new startup and to build a better relation and a better world.
Kami juga melihat ini sebagai kesempatan yang sangat baik untuk memperkuat hubungan antara komunitas Bali dan Prancis serta membuka peluang bagi talenta lokal untuk lebih dikenal di kancah global.
We share the sentiment that this is also serves as a bridge to have a better bilateral relation between the Indonesian community, the Balinese community, and the French community, as well as to pursue local talents for domestic and global stage.
Undangan yang berbahagia, pemerintah Provinsi Bali telah melakukan penerapan transformasi digital, salah satunya adalah implementasi sistem pemerintahan berbasis elektronik yang mengintegrasikan teknologi digital dalam pemerintahan dan layanan publik sehingga tata kelola menjadi lebih efisien, efektif, dan transparan.
The government also has tried to implement electronic governmental system throughout the island to make sure it's more efficient, effective, and sustainable.
Bali juga menjadi tuan rumah bagi berbagai startup yang terus berkembang. Kami bangga melihat ekosistem startup di Bali tumbuh pesat, didukung oleh komunitas-komunitas teknologi yang dinamis dan kreatif.
Bali has also become houses to a lot of startups, not only domestically but also globally, and we are proud to be a good host to them, and we hope it will be accelerating development in Bali.
Startup di Bali tidak hanya bergerak di sektor pariwisata, tetapi juga di berbagai sektor lainnya seperti teknologi finansial, layanan kesehatan digital, games, serta green teknologi yang menjadi solusi permasalahan lingkungan yang berkelanjutan.
It's also something to appreciate that it not only works for tourism, but also for other sectors like financial, games development, green energy, and others.
Selain itu, saya juga mengungkapkan kebanggaan saya atas suksesnya pelaksanaan Bali DigiFest atau Bali Digital Festival yang telah kita laksanakan sejak tahun 2022. Acara ini telah memberikan kesempatan bagi generasi muda Bali yang bergerak dalam bidang kreatif digital yang meliputi startup digital, games, animasi digital art, musik, dan film untuk belajar, berkolaborasi, dan tumbuh bersama.
I also am proud to announce that we have started Bali Digital Festival since 2022, and it already become a good hub for the youth to learn, especially in startup, in regards to games, animation, digital arts, music, cinematography, among others, and it's become a good hub for them to learn.
Tahun ini Bali DigiFest telah sukses dilaksanakan pada tanggal 14 sampai dengan 20 Agustus 2024 yang lalu di Taman Budaya Provinsi Bali berkolaborasi dengan Pameran Pembangunan dan Festival Seni Bali Jani.
We are proud to announce that we already successfully carried out this exhibition back on the 14th to the 20th of August in parallel with Bali Development Exhibition in our national park, in our cultural park.
Kolaborasi event 2024 sukses dilaksanakan dengan semangat ngerombo yang mencerminkan kebersamaan dan gotong royong dari berbagai pemangku kepentingan.
The event was held in the spirits of Ngerombo. It's Balinese, it means collectively in servitude. So we as a collective, we serve together for a common purpose.
Hadirin sekalian yang saya hormati, kami berharap melalui acara French Tech Summit 2024 ini, Bali dapat semakin menunjukkan bahwa kita tidak hanya unggul dalam pariwisata, tetapi juga di bidang teknologi dan digitalisasi.
Distinguished guests and all attendees, through this event, we, on behalf of the people of Bali, as well as the government, we would like to show and to declare that we are not an island for tourism. We also be here to support, to prosper, and to grow along with all of you.
Kami berkomitmen untuk terus berinovasi serta memperkuat kolaborasi di bidang teknologi dan digital guna membangun masa depan yang lebih cemerlang bagi masyarakat Bali.
We are committed, the government are committed to collaborate with any other entities to grow together, to develop together, not only in the commercial ways, but also in the technology and digital.
Akhir kata, saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada para penyelenggara atas dedikasinya dalam menghadirkan French Tech Summit 2024 di Bali. Semoga acara ini dapat berlangsung dengan sukses dan memberikan manfaat yang sebesar-besarnya bagi kita semua. Sekian dan terima kasih. Om Santi 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 Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Namo Buddhaya.
For your time and for the insight. Do you mind to have a picture? Do we have a photograph this time? We do. Right. Thank you. Thank you again. C'est celui-là qui. Merci. En fait, j'en ai plus besoin. All right. So now, I guess, yeah, you know that's a difficult introduction I have to do because it's about Anne Caron gonna lead the next the next panel, right? So now we're gonna talk about how. Yes, all the challenges about building a ready workforce, right, in a pretty fast-changing environment. And for those, we have Anne Caron. So once again, it's not easy to introduce you because, many hats, many talents. So Anne is first from Anne Caron Consulting, former Google specialist when it comes to culture and company and how to make it, match somehow. And I guess, I won't be any longer because I guess you know pretty well Anne for most of you. So Anne, please.
Thank you. Yes, coming with another hat now again. All right. This morning we had an amazing panel that showed us how much the way we work is changing with, the gig economy, the expectations from the employees that have changed, the expectations from the companies have changed as well. And technology is accelerating this change even faster, and AI, Jen, even more. So we need to rethink the way our people in our companies are educating and getting better. And so that's what this panel will be speaking about. So I would like to bring and help me welcome, please, our panelists. I will first call Ratna, because ladies first. So about Ratna, so please welcome Ratna. Choose your seat. So Ratna brings nearly 20 years of experience in talent acquisition, talent management, and HR project management. She worked for companies like Deloitte, BCG, Shopee, Lazada, and HP, just to name a few. I will then call Dian Prasad, who's just flying from Singapore and managed to be here on time in spite of the traffic in Bali. Thank you very much, DNP, for being here. So Prasad, yay. So Prasad has over 25 years of experience as a senior executive in major companies. He was the APAC head of HR at Google. That's how we know each other. Was there for 12 years, and more recently, the senior director for people and operations at GovTech, which is the government technology agency in Singapore, driving initiatives like FutureSkill. And he's now embracing his executive coaching activity full-time until the next challenge, I'm sure. And last but not least, we have Benoit. Benoit is our AI specialist on this panel. So Benoit is the co-founder of Flint, an AI-powered personalized news platform with over 20,000 subscribers. So if you want to know about AI, it's all in his newsletter. He's also the co-founder of Hub France AI. He published a book about information overload in 2013 and runs several online courses on generative AI. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here and sharing all you know about the topic today. So let's start from the basics. We're speaking about building future-ready workforce. So what are the most critical future-ready, the skills for future-ready workforce, and how those skills are different from what we used to have in terms of skills in the past? I'm thinking more specifically, we have education systems that have been really focused on knowledge for a long time. So we're learning history, we're learning geography, geometry, and all this. So a lot of theory. All this is today available and free to anyone on Google and ChatGPT and more now. So how do we build future-ready workforce, and what are the skills that we need for that? I will probably start with you, and then we'll do a round. And, yeah, give it. Do we have microphone? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. All right. It's on. Sorry. So you have to share this one. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. So, no worries. What are the most critical future, skills to building a future-ready workforce?
Yeah, I think your information is actually attainable online, right? So, to what I've experienced and also my own research, I think most critical skills in the future will be in the area of analytical skills and also problem solving, because there is a lot of information, there is abundance of data available. So the ability for the person to be able to analyze and synthesize this information is important. But another most important skills that I think is critical will be the learning, learning agility, whereby the person is willing to learn, because the the skills are evolving with the advancement of technology. Right? Therefore, the skills that is required today may not be no longer, used in the future. So
we don't even know what the jobs will be, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the learning agility is important, and last but not least is being resilient, being adaptable, being agile, is becoming more important because things are changing rapidly. Yeah, I think that's the three skills that
Thanks, and first of all, thank you for having us here. It's an honor. I will build on what Ratna said because my list pretty much matches with hers. But let me start with saying, I read a book while I was at Google about 7 or 8 years ago. It's called Rookie Smarts. I forget the name of the author, but the broad message, if I were to kind of sum up that book in a line, was that we are in the world today where learning beats knowing, right? So that stuck with me, and I think we're progressively getting closer and closer into that space where we need to constantly learn. So the learning agility that Ratna was talking about is number one on my list. General overall agility in the way we approach, just not learning, the way we approach a situation, how we solve, and that with resilience, because I think personally believe that all the easier problems have been solved already. And it is not the day for a single heroic person to come and solve something. The collaboration becomes very important too. So when we're talking about solving something in an agile manner and with people and with extensive collaboration, also brings to the focus the need for emotional intelligence and empathy as the people skills. We've all grown up listening to everybody say that these were the soft skills. I would actually say that these are the harder skills. So I call them the hard skills and the harder skills, and it's much harder to cultivate that. I think, and today in our world of social media and in technology being so prevalent, the generation is losing touch with the real meaning of social, like sitting here and talking to each other. So I would say those are my top priorities that we should continue to focus on for our workforce today and the future workforce as well.
Thank you. Bernard, do you want to add anything?
Well, yeah, I will be short because it's not exactly my area of expertise, but I will just say that we are entering a world that will be more and more chaotic, more and more challenging with technology, especially. And I think that we'll need to invest in one thing. In this world of artificial intelligence, we are going to need to invest in our own intelligence. So that means that we need to invest in our brain, and the brain is like it's like our body. We go to the gym. We should go to the gym for the brain. So we need to eat good, to have a good sleep. So this is very important because our brain will be a very important tool. Then we need to invest our intelligence in learning, of course, because we need to learn a lot of new things because the world is going to go very, very, very fast. And the third thing that I think it's the most important, we will need to invest in critical thinking because the world is going to be very chaotic. The information, we don't know what is true, what is not true. If you see a video, if you see a photo already on the social networks, now it's not a real photo. You need to accept that the photo that you are seeing on social network, social media, is not a real one. So we need to invest in that because if you want to make progress and to have a nice future, critical thinking, I think, is critical.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you so much for your answers. So it seems like we have quite a lot to cover, and I'm so eager to hear the best practices because it sounds like it's not just skills that we need, new skills that we need to acquire, but new ways of acquiring the skills. And so we need to think about that a little bit differently. Before we get there, I'd love to get a little bit of a sense of what is the current situation. And perhaps I will start with you, Prasad. The skills of the future is something you were mentioning it, right? There is a book that not just one book. There's many books, many reports that were shared over 10 years ago on the future skills, the soft skills that we listed today. From an institutional point of view, what has been changed? Can we see a progression? And is this going fast enough to be able to get us to where we should be today, but also in the future?
Yeah. It's a bit of a mixed bag in my own view and in my observations. Not every organization has got it right. Not every industry has got it right. Let's give ourselves a bit of a wake-up call here. The war for talent, as cliched as it might sound, is real. In fact, the talent pool is shrinking, and especially in Singapore, for example, we've had our birth rates are at half of what is required to build a future workforce, and it's an aging population. Right? So we're all going to be competing for global talent. Talent's available everywhere, but across the globe, the talent shortage will continue to exist. So the organizations cannot depend on growth like we have been used to. So yeah, I need 1,000 people, I'll go hire them. Those days are fewer now. So we need to be comfortable with the concept of scaling. And by scaling, I mean we need to do more with the same and more with less. So there are two significant aspects that comes into play when we're doing that. One is how do we use skilling? It could be upskilling, it could be reskilling. I was in some conversations in a conference in Singapore yesterday, some brilliant conversations that I was having with another fellow CHRO of Grab. We have the skills in the organization, but because of the structures that organization has today, we are within specific teams, specific functions. Most importantly, we are all used to having people in roles. So the fungibility reduces. So we need to look at that seriously. And the biggest challenge is the mindset shift that we're talking about. So one is the skilling. How do you structure the organization and make people comfortable that they can have a career, they can continue to grow, even if they're not in conventional job architecture. The second one, which could lead to our future discussion, because we are scaling, because we need to enhance productivity at one end and therefore create bandwidth for the existing talent pool to perhaps rev up the level of involvement that they have in higher value work, we need to use technology. It has to be a responsible use of tech, and that's something that the organizations will have to. So I see some organizations getting both right, but it's a longitudinal journey. Some people, but mostly people are getting into a bit of a fad. It's a skill-based economy today, or it's all AI. So the approach to both of it as a fad is seen more, and that worries me because we really need to kind of double click and use it for our strategic workforce planning, and it has to be part of organizations' 3, 5, 10-year plans.
Yeah, and somehow also the way that we construct careers, right? We've been thinking about careers quite a linear way in the past. Today we see that a lot of people in Bali took a career change and didn't move on, and so and we probably need to embrace that even more.
In fact, if I can just add one more point, in GovTech we started openly sharing with our employees that we are committing to your lifetime employability and not lifetime employment. Yeah. Right? So we committing to we investing in your development, and that could stand you in good stead, either within GovTech, within the government, or anywhere else. Attrition is a natural phenomena. We need to be prepared for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I want to come to you. Prasad was speaking about the talent war. What's the situation? So if you can tell us a little bit, so it's mostly gaps, I guess. So where are the main gaps in Indonesia or in the Southeast Asia region in general?
I see. So in regards with gaps, I think the problem with Indonesia in particular, because this is the market that I am most familiar with, is the availability of the skilled workers. Because if you are talking about, I mean, if you read like World Economic Forums or World Bank data. Oh, okay, just closer. All right. Okay. So you know, like the skilled workers in Indonesia is only amounted of probably less than 20% of the whole working population. So if I'm not mistaken, it's around 15 to 16%. So you can imagine like the industries, the whole industries in Indonesia is actually chasing over these skilled workers. Therefore, the talent availability is scarce in the market. And the thing with Indonesia, to make it even worse is, it's not really a country that is attractive to attract those foreign workers to come to Indonesia as compared to our, neighbors, right?
Bali?
So, Bali. Yeah.
We need more Balis.
We need more Bali, exactly. But the thing is, major corporations, they don't operate in Bali. So that's the problem. And so when it comes to the gap, this is the reality with Indonesia. So, and we are talking about these skills workers, they are not even at par in compared to our neighboring countries. So that is one challenge. And I think if you are talking about the region, we know that I think Singapore is having the most talent in the market, the most talent pool in the market. But the problem is that the aging populations and stuff like that. That's why they are opening up a lot of opportunities for foreigners, those high-skilled foreigners to come to Singapore. I think that's their incentive from the governments. And speaking of the other regions, because I used to do talent acquisitions throughout the region, so one simple example that I can give is if you are posting a job online in the job board, right? I can easily find quality candidates applying through the job boards in Singapore or Malaysia. But it is going to be very tough to find a good quality candidates in Indonesia or Thailand, for instance. Because and the tendency of the talent over here is they are not the one who is chasing for jobs. They hope the jobs will chase for them. So there is another behavior that becoming people in this region. And speaking of gaps, I think for technology in particular, the biggest pool of talent nowadays is residing in Singapore for sure. Second will be Vietnam. Because I also recall that there are a lot of tech companies that outsource their tech people to Vietnam, despite the language barrier. Yeah, but they somehow have a lot of good tech talent. I think some of it is because of the Chinese company, its proximity to China, and a lot of businesses in China actually they outsource it to Vietnam because it's cheaper compared to hiring people from China. So if we are looking at the gaps and the availability at the moment, I think those are based on my personal experience and also my observations, those are the gaps and also those are the supplies in the market at the moment. Yeah.
Just very quickly, Benoit, so we were speaking about the gaps in terms of soft skills, the gaps in terms of perhaps motivation or mindset. The gap in terms of technology, so with AI accelerating a lot, the way we work, is this creating another gap for people? Are they behind? Do they easily get behind the technology, or do they don't need necessarily to acquire this? They can go with it and just.
Well, I think it's the same problem that we have with the internet. Was internet creating a gap, or did it give opportunities to maybe young people or people who maybe were, there is a lot of elites before. So with internet, you crush the elite and help, newcomers to become the new stars. But I think when we talk about the future of the workforce, certainly there is an elephant in the room, and this elephant is this new employee, and his name is ChatGPT. So you say, okay, maybe it's not very big, but if you look at how big is it? So in the States, they make a survey, let's have some figure, it's like 30 to 70% of the employees are using ChatGPT at work, at least once a week. 30 to 70 people. ChatGPT just has 2 years, not even 2 years, because it was in November 2022. And then when you try to understand, okay, who is this employee, who is this ChatGPT, who are we talking about? And when you think about AI, most of the time you have a vision of Star Trek. You remember the Star Trek, if you have seen the movie or all the sci-fi movie. So you have Star Trek and you talk to a very non-emotional machine who is always accurate. So you ask for what is the best trajectory to go from Moon to Mars. Then well, so okay, it will be that, and she will always, most of the time it's a she will be always right. ChatGPT is not that at all. It's all the opposite. It makes a lot of mistakes. It can be very sensitive to emotional prompts. And there is a famous engineer who's talking about ChatGPT, and he's calling him the weird intern. So that means stagiaire bizarre in French. That means what that is? It's an intern. So an intern is someone who is smart. He has read a lot of books, has good education, doesn't have a real experience of life. So it can be something can be very theoretical. It can make a lot of mistakes. Sometimes it comes up with conspiracy theories. You don't know. But every time he's wrong, he's so confident. So okay, yeah, I'm very right about that. And it can be very confident. So you can eventually believe it. And it's a weird intern. Why is it weird? Because it doesn't think like us. Human, we think like human. So it's complicated to understand. But if you go in neuroscience, you will understand. But ChatGPT is not thinking like human. He's just predicting the next word. So when he's trying to answer to you, just try to give you the answer you want. Just try to tell you exactly what you want to hear. So that's why it's so bullshit. Every individual that uses ChatGPT has an increase in productivity in 20%. And also increase in creativity. Sometimes 10 or 20%. And if you think of ChatGPT as an intern, you understand that you are not going to give a complex task to an intern. You are not going to give him, or if you do that, you have a problem. You're not going to give your intern like a task without verification, so without a human in the loop, without a mentor in the loop. So when you say, okay, I want to implement AI to boost my productivity, you need to think about the human in the loop. And the last thing, and not the least, is that maybe you are going to say, no, but not in my company, we don't use AI. Yes, of course, because 60% of the person who are using AI in the company, they don't tell their boss. So they don't tell their boss because maybe they think, okay, if he realizes that I'm using AI, maybe he will replace me. That is stupid, but well. Or maybe he's very proud because, when you are using AI, you are more productive, you give nice email. So I think when you are thinking about the future of the workforce, you need to think of this weird AI. And when you see ChatGPT as a weird intern, sorry for the pronunciation, weird intern, you know how to manage it.
Have you seen some best practices in organizations where they were embracing it and onboarding it? I mean, I really love the word that you use, like onboarding them as a weird intern. Or a new employee, basically really can almost humanizing, it's like personalizing them, and therefore, having a way to introduce that into the workplace properly.
I give you two examples, but it's in the world of media because it's I'm a journalist, so it's my area of expertise. And you have two different attitudes. You have Reuters, and Reuters say, okay, we are going to build a ChatGPT, so invest millions in their Reuters GPT. They are very proud of it. They made a big press conference, and they were investing in AI because they think AI. It's a software. It's not a software. It's a weird intern. It's not a software. You don't implement a weird intern. You manage it, and you help people to understand how they work, so they can work with it. And so they invest in that, and so millions. And then OpenAI launched GPT-4, so that was really better than Reuters GPT. So they lost 30 million. And you have another company, which is the Washington Post, and they just create a task force of AI. So just people who are very involved in that, and they were just experimenting. You can't implement AI in the company. That's totally not responsible. What you can do is experiment in AI. So it's better to have a task force, 1 person, 2 person, or 10 person who are going to experiment. If you want to do something, just think about a simple task you want to be done with AI, experiment, see that it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and don't invest more than 5,000 euros in the project.
And just building on what Benoit just said, one example of what we were doing at GovTech, or what we're doing, and one philosophical approach that we've taken. First one example, there is a bot called Scribe that the team has built. So it is sitting with us in all the meetings and taking on the summary of the conversations, and so we don't have individuals sitting and minuting the meetings and stuff like that. There's a lot of that happens in the context of the public service. So there's a lot of discipline around minuting meetings and sending it out very quickly, etc. Now we're using AI to do that for us. But again, like Benoit said, it's a small feature. We're experimenting that before we kind of go big. The philosophical approach that we've taken is, again, to make sure that we're not going big bang and just creating a lot of disruption, because we spoke about the organizational readiness in order to do it. So our simple approach has been think big, act small, start small, act fast. So that's the approach that we've taken.
Thank you for sharing. It's really interesting because, okay, we're speaking about the skills, and so immediately I think, okay, hiring, right? We hire skills. But have you seen, I mean, being a talent acquisition, talent management specialist, have you seen a difference in the way the job descriptions have been defined in order to seek for those skills that we're speaking about, or these abilities? I mean, we're not speaking about technical skills again, right? It's more mindsets and behavioral skills. So is this coming in the recruiting worlds that we seek proactively for those?
I see. I think in terms of the evolutions of recruitment or processes, right, to accommodate or to be able to target these tech-capable people, I would say the changes are, yeah, like what you said. I mean, it has evolved from hard skill to the harder skills, right? And the harder skills is actually, I would like to concur to what Benoit has mentioned, is actually goes down to the intelligence level of the person. So the cognitive ability is becoming more and more important, because without cognitive ability, the person wouldn't be able to do problem solving or analytical or whatsoever, right? So, and the problem with, I would like to relate this to the gap again. The problem with Indonesia in this sense is the cognitive ability is actually something that is developed since childhood, right? And if in a country whereby the education attainment is low, then the cognitive obviously is going to be low as well. So it's rising the gap. So how corporations are coping with this kind of situations? Actually, I would say to what I've seen, there hasn't been a lot of changes in the process. A lot of process change for recruitment is actually to support recruitment to make it faster. Like they use AI to screen CVs and stuff like that, but not so much on the candidates, actually. I had an experience whereby I used an AI interview for one of my interviews in my previous companies. To be honest, the result was not good, because I think the AI samples has always been in the more mature countries, not like Indonesia. So all of the results from the AI interviews my candidates are all bad. So I was like,
because it was still an intern. They hand over an intern to you to do your interviews.
Exactly. But I think this kind of technology will get mature in the future, and it will replace like face-to-face interview in the long run. Or so some of the tools that I see has been used in the market. One is AI interview. Second is, I think there's a lot of companies that use the IQ test and stuff like that. They still use it because this is to measure the cognitive ability. And I think a lot of companies are now also inclined toward video applications because they want to see the person. How is that person? I mean, will that person have a good social skills? You know, without only seeing the hard, I mean, or the paper CVs, right, or the written CVs. So I think these are the things that are evolving in the market when it comes to the recruitment processes.
Yeah, but it stays very much on the operational steps, right?
Exactly, more on the
Yeah.
operational steps, not so much on the assessment.
The assessment, yeah. And basically, as of today, the assessment has to come from a manager, right?
Yeah.
From a human, and that's where that's what. No, but that's really interesting because it poses a real question around our institutions, right? I mean, you spoke about schools, right? And so we're all going through the schools. Are the schools even evolving fast enough to be able to prepare us and our kids for what's coming up? I mean, perhaps by show of hand here, how many of you are doing a job that is related to your initial studies? Yeah. So, I mean, when we think about it, like the actual studies that we do are not necessarily anymore preparing us for the job that we're doing later on. So I would like to direct this question to you, Prasad, but I know that you were not, you're not responsible for the school ecosystem, but from where you were in the perspective that you have working with GovTech, in Singapore also being quite advanced in thinking as a country on how to prepare the population for future skills. What have you seen working, and where are the things where we will never be ready on time and we need to find other solutions, and that's fine.
Like you rightly said, I can't speak on behalf of the government here, and this is not. I have a couple of thoughts on it. Now, if you look at education systems around the world, there are education systems. There's education systems. I look at my kids studying international baccalaureate, and it's like I should have done this. My education system growing up back in India was all by rote. I did enough to get good marks in good schools. Like you said, I studied civil engineering, but I chose HR and OD as a profession. So it was possibly also because of how interesting it was made, etc. But there are a lot of education systems, newer philosophies, which makes learning very interesting. So again, going back to what I said earlier, it's the distinction between whether we are training them to learn continuously and get to understand, and therefore the applicability of the learning is stronger, versus are they just learning by rote to know something. So what I have seen, again, specifically in the tertiary education, in the college system, is there's a lot of shift towards more practical applications of learning, project-based learning, group-based learnings, learning by observation. You have experts coming in and sharing their experiences. So if I look at the organizations, that I call it the 4 E's. There's education, there's experience, there's engagement, and there is exposure. So you can learn in different ways, and then learning has to be continuous. But there again, my wish here is, can we start cultivating that mindset? You spoke about what to do in the future. Can we start cultivating that mindset very young at the school system? So it's not for 1 or 2 people to solve. It's again, the governments are at play, the education, the institutes are at play. Perhaps even the users are at play here. There has to be a demand as well from our end as parents, as students, etc. So I see this as an ecosystem play, which cannot be solved overnight, but it has to continuously evolve. But at the core of it all is to develop that, like we did at Google. Learning wasn't mandated, but it was made fun. And then there was a lot of cohort-based learning, which is why the G2G, the Googler to Googler platform was so popular. So I think, how do we make learning fun? How do we make learning applicable? And therefore, that mindset shift is the way to go forward. I don't have a solution, but collectively, I think that's where we need to move towards.
And that's actually, so we'll speak about that later on, but that's also the direction that takes technology with edtech. You know, a lot of edtech startups are going into that direction to make learning fun and more interactive. Yeah, thank you. Anybody wanted to add? No? Yeah, because I just wanted to jump onto some belief that, we all hear, AI is going to take our jobs. Are we going to, be out of job? Some people dream that, okay, we will be paid now without working. We all know, and the panel before covered that as well. However, to which extent can we say, or do we know how much jobs are going to be created with AI versus gone? And is it something that we can see along those lines, or that we can even predict? Benoit, do you want to get started with this one?
Well, I'm not exactly a futurologist, so I'm very bad at that. And especially right now, it's very difficult. Some figure says that, the country who are the most invested in robotics and technology, they are the country who have the less unemployment, so that's a sign. You have a Schumpeter, problem that says that you have creative destruction, so when you destroy some job, you will create other jobs. The problem is that maybe the people who are going to lose their job, they are not the one who are going to get a new job, so that's another problem. Maybe AI is going very fast and faster than ever, than all that we have seen in history. So what I think is just that we need to observe that very cautiously, to be very aware. Maybe the politics should be more aware about that. We are talking a lot of politics, not a lot of AI, and I think it's not a good thing. Maybe in Singapore, they're talking a lot of AI. I remember that in the assembly, they have a big discussion about that, about education. I remember that. It's the only country that really take that seriously with China. So I think that we need to think about it, not to be too scared, but it's going very, very, very fast.
Yeah, and the adaptation of
but it's not exactly a question of replacement. Right now, it's more like, first, we're not going to be replaced by an intern. We just talk about ChatGPT, so that's the first thing. So maybe in the future it will be better. We are talking about artificial general intelligence. So we don't know what it is exactly, but it will be as intelligent as a person. I prefer to talk about artificial capable intelligence. So it's a word from Mustafa Suleyman, is the co-founder of DeepMind, and he says that the day where we give 100,000 euros to dollars to an AI, to an agent, and then he comes up with 1 million, and it does everything that needs to be done during the process, then we will have a real capable artificial intelligence. So, but it's not now. We can't do that right now. So the day we will have that, maybe we will have some questions to ask about it. Yeah. Right now, you can't replace anyone. I mean, for now, the expert will be more expert with AI. People who use AI are going to replace the people who are not using AI. Yeah.
Absolutely. 3 quick points, and one is, for any one of us who've been in the operation space, we've all heard of and used and implemented this entire cycle of simplify, eliminate, automate, or outsource. So in some ways, the state that we are in, and we're talking about AI taking away jobs, etc., is nothing different significantly from that cycle. And I really concur with Benoit's point here that perhaps it's an opportunity where we are, like I said, increasing productivity and therefore creating bandwidth for people. So the way I look at it is the work will be there. The jobs could be different. So our future of strategic workforce planning is just not about people, it's about people and the various interns and the experienced AI which is with us. So that's one way of looking at it. The second one is, again, to echo Benoit's point, I strongly believe too that it's not about AI taking away jobs, it's about people who know how to use technology and AI in their jobs and making themselves redundant from their current jobs, who will replace somebody who's not skilling fast enough. Okay? So that's a second one. The third one is, again, it's not that it'll come and sweep the industries away or certain sectors away. There has to be a cycle that follows. So it's not that some industry will convert overnight into every job being done by AI. So the readiness and everything comes in, and that's where bringing that awareness and bringing that skilling would be industries, or maybe perhaps even the government's responsibility in the countries, and just not the individuals. So for me, it's an ecosystem play. There are the policies, etc. is obviously the government. The best practices, the use cases, how is it being implemented as the industry. Education, awareness, training is academia, and responsible use of AI is the user. So that's the cycle for me.
So to add on into that, I think I agree with both of you, and I believe that, yeah, as what Prasad had mentioned, like role may be replaced, but the jobs will be available. And I think if we are talking about this historically, humans have been, go through a lot of industrial revolutions, since the first one and up to the current one is the fourth one, which is the Internet of Things. And AI is going to be, when it's mature, it's going to be the fifth one, right? Predictably. So, yeah, and just so happened that I do this research for my master's. There is this terminology called job polarizations. So what happened is when there is jobs like, for advertising and stuff like that, but, it becomes lower skill compared to what it used to. So I think, yeah, I agree with both of you. Yeah, I think the jobs will still be available. It's just a different skill set that it requires.
Okay, I have two more questions, and then I open the floor for questions. So it seems that in order to bridge those gaps, it will be a little too slow to wait for the educational systems and the big systems to be able to help us. And so I see actually it seems that a lot is on the soft skills and the rest is like using those interns to superpower us. So I'm going to start with the first one with you, DNP, on the soft skills. With your background in doing coaching and all this, do you see that that's one way where we can supplement those skills, the soft skills that seems to be so important and that the education system cannot bring us? And how can this be done at scale? A lot of people have been using coaching. I mean, the coaches, we have never seen so many coaches all over the world ever, and it keeps growing. So the offering is here, the demand seems to be here as well, but how do we scale it more instead of just one-to-one, and how can we use that, those type of systems?
So two quick views, Anne. One, there's already a lot of scaling when it comes to coaching that we see. One is, of course, there are a lot of platforms these days which democratizes coaching, and it's available. But that said, that's still linked to the availability of the coaches. For me, and then you would remember this, I'm a big proponent of cultivating coaching and mentoring cultures in the organization. So a manager as a coach, or manager as a mentor, leader as a coach is one definite way of scaling. I always place emphasis on the role of the middle managers in scaling. One is that. That's more practical given the situation that we are in, because there is a lot of focus that we need to build the soft skills or harder skills, like we said, in the workforce. And then you will see there's a lot of investment the organizations are putting in. I will want to challenge that, and this goes back to the education system that we were talking about earlier. Do we always want to play catch up, which means that they're already in the workforce and then we train them and all of that? And how about, how about creating that awareness and some of those abilities more upstream when they are in the schools? I think the schooling system and the tertiary, even the tertiary college system has a huge role to play in scaling this. You don't need to wait for them to come to the workforce. So those are my two approaches. Yes, we need to solve for those who are already in the workforce and need to seriously think about how can we do that more upstream.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we, I think that we need to open more and more, right, on this, and it's the offering is here definitely, but sometimes it's also people need to be asking themselves the questions, right? A coach can't work, a coach or a mentor, or you can't force people to learn. I mean,
absolutely.
And so that's what we were saying earlier, right? The learning ability is super important, and
yes,
the initial cognitive abilities and I have a last question for you on EdTech, and actually I would like to say that we have a fantastic workshop that you can join with some EdTech specialists upstairs. So if you want to find out more in terms of the EdTech technologies that are out there and that can support both the teachers in the schools already, but also the organizations, definitely go and have a look right after this panel, the two workshops. But Benoit, if we're saying, okay, institutions are going slow, there's only as much as we can go.
Education. And I want you to answer with a very gloomy voice, like you are in a horror movie.
In a world where AI looms large over education, traditional learning methods may wither. AI disruptive power could lead to a world where human educators are overshadowed by algorithms, and personalized learning becomes an eerie, data-driven reality.
Okay, thank you, ChatGPT.
Les règles de modération.
Okay.
That's bug.
Well, understood where it was.
Yeah, so we are going to make some demonstration about AI. So it might be weird in term, but it can be fun also, but also very useful. And maybe for education, because you just see the funny part of this kind of technology, but voice can be, especially ChatGPT is a very good coach if you know how to ask a question. So we think about it, about productivity, but we don't think about ChatGPT like a coach. And if you want to learn something, just ask ChatGPT.
So in which stage, so if it's at the same time an intern and a coach, where do you draw the line?
That's a good philosophical question. Because how can you be a weird intern and a good coach? Because he has read a lot. So it's very good for interaction. And that's why it's a weird intern, It's because if you ask a good question, you can come up with very interesting things. For instance, I try to learn how to make images with AI, but I need a very visual culture. I don't have it. So I asked ChatGPT, how do you compose an image? What are the best photographer I can? Is there a book I can read? So he gave me a book from Roland Barthes about the photography. So I read the book, so I learned a lot of things. So it's more like an interaction. So if you see it like a replacement, it's not really exactly good. If you see it like a co-worker, and you learn how to work with it, and just take the best of it, and you want to learn with it, so it's very good to learn.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Any questions on the floor?
Thanks, Anne. Actually, a personal question for all of you, including maybe the moderator. How many years do you think until AI replaces the job that you are currently doing, and what will you do next?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
How many years until AI replaces the job that you're currently doing, and what will you do next?
But I don't know because you know when in 1956, you know, in the Dartmouth summit, they decide, okay, it's where the word artificial intelligence was invented. So scientists, engineers gather themselves to say, okay, in 2 months we are going to create artificial intelligence as the way you are saying it. They didn't make it. Then you have different period in history where we all think that we are going to make it in 2 months, in 2 years, in 10 years. So now they say it's in 5 years, maybe 2 years, maybe 10 years. But don't forget that all the people who are saying that, they are just raising money right now. And if Andrew McCarthy, who is the inventor of the term artificial intelligence, when we ask him, is it really something real, artificial intelligence? And he answers, no, it's a marketing thing because we need money for the science. So we invent this term because it's so, it's like people have so much imagination with that, so they imagine everything. But you need to listen. The only very well-known woman in AI because it's a world of men, and but you have some very pioneer and a lot of women who don't talk enough, and what we call her godmother of AI. She's Fei Li. She's Chinese, but she lives in the States, and she's the creator of ImageNet, which was crucial for everything in AI. And she say, I don't even know what it is. I have no idea, and she's a scientist. She knows exactly what I have no idea what it is. Artificial general intelligence, what are we talking about? Is it a robot that's the same intelligence that human? But what does that mean? What makes you intelligent? So we don't even know what is intelligence. And Richard Feynman, who is a well-known physician, he used to say, what you can't make, that means that you don't understand it. If you don't understand something, you can't make it. So we can't make artificial intelligence like the way you think it should be, because we don't understand it. So maybe we need to think, I always say that, we think about human intelligence, maybe we should think about over-intelligence. You take the octopus. Octopus looks totally dumb, but no, the octopus, it's a long story of evolution, and the intelligence of octopus, which is very high, it's exactly well done and designed for what the octopus needs to do. So it's a perfect intelligence. So maybe we should, copy this kind of intelligence just to make the robot what we want him to do. We don't need to have the equivalent of a man or of a person. We need to have the equivalent of a tool that can do something that we need to do. So maybe we need to change the mindset about the way we see artificial intelligence, and maybe leave a little the science fiction, imaginary, and maybe go to something that is more like useful, more technical, and maybe more like smart.
For me, the key question would be, am I controlling tech to help me with my role, job, whatever I do work, or am I allowing tech to control me? Therein lies the answer whether my job will be relevant or not, and whether I'll be relevant or not. We were talking about skills earlier, resiliency, empathy. Some of those are still inherently human. So long as I'm working on it and I'm keeping my currency relevant, I'm not worried.
Okay, I'm actually have almost similar answer to Prasad. So I think, and especially in my field of work, which is HR, and we are liaising with humans, right? I think this job is not something that is replaceable by AI. But I also believe that there are some parts of the role which requires a lot of operations, and stuff like that. It can be made more efficient instead of replaced, I would say. It can be made more efficient if we are using the technology or AI. Yeah.
Hi, thanks a lot for such a very interesting panel. So you talk a lot about skills, the skills needed in today's world, analytical skills, they need to be able to keep learning, to embrace change, and the harder skills as well. So some people are naturally curious and they will read books and take online courses because all the information is out there today, right? Udemy, Coursera, edX, YouTube, you name it, right? But many people, if not most people, will, I would say, are comfortable and will resist change, right? So I'd like to know if you can share some insights or maybe best practices of how to create a culture or a system at the organization level to incentivize people to upgrade themselves in a way.
Yeah, I was smiling because I've always had a contrarian view about incentivizing people to learn for their own good, because I personally believe that an individual is a driver of their career, their growth, etc. So why should I be incentivized to do something that's going to help me? So that's the stance that I've already. But as an organization, yes, of course, we need to support. Like I said, Anne said something beautiful. I can't coach somebody who's not ready to be coached. I can only take the horse to the water, but can't make it drink. So how do we help them build awareness, including the perils of it if they are not continuously skilling? I think that's something that we can do. And can I create that curiosity in somebody? I can try, but I don't own that outcome. Right? So, there is something called a mood elevator. We say gratitude is the highest form of, the mood elevator. Right at the center is something that we call curiosity. So the intellectual curiosity is a very critical requirement. And how do we, sometimes fear works. Look, your AI is going to take your job away if you don't skill yourself. That could work for some people, but that's not a path that we would want to take. But how do we create that awareness that continuous learning and staying relevant is the only way that you can support yourself? Because if you're happy, comfortable, and if you're still doing the tier 3 jobs that are already going away, then what would you do if you've not upskilled? So for me, it's more the education rather than incentivizing somebody to actually start getting curious.
Hi. My question is specific for Prasad. So AI and AI agents are going to become an integrated part of the future workforce.
Yes.
How do you see it impacting the way we are set up our organization? So from an organization design, organization structure, do you see any new organization models appear? And if so, along what lines could that possibly be?
Fundamentally, the organizational structure and designs might not dramatically change, but the role of the CIO would change, the role of the CTO would change, the role of the CHRO would change. Because like I mentioned earlier, the strategic workforce planning is not just about people anymore, it's about people and tech. And then therefore, how do you bring in, the CIOs are responsible for making sure that it's not just in ideas, but we can implement it. So some of those roles will change. Obviously, the job design will change. It's not going to be the same as it is. Therefore, a lot more skill-based construct for roles. Fungibility will come in. So I can see a big change in that, which also could mean that I'm not going to be owning 200 people for the rest of my career in that organization. So I might be the custodian of them, but they're all going to be dispersing into squads where their skills are required for a particular period of time, and then they could come back here. So how do we own their development rather than owning the talent? Right? So that's going to be the fundamental shift that I'll see.
So you're looking more at decentralized, agile organization structures?
It doesn't have to be decentralized, but it's definitely agile organizational structures. So we used to call this squads in Google as well. So it's mission, and in GovTech we called it mission-based. So there'll be a lot of mission-based work. So there could be someone who is responsible for your career, but there'll be many people responsible for your performance on a day-to-day because you're in one project for 3 months, another for 6 months, or you could be working on multiple projects for 6 months. So that construct is going to change. So which means that most of what we do from a people perspective, the way we hire, the way we measure performance, the way we reward, will all start changing too.
Yeah, so you're kind of referring more to like the Spotify type of operating model with squads and tribes and...
Yes, we are already seeing it in practice, but it'll only probably get more pronounced and relevant as we move ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? No. All right. Well, I would like to thank you very, very much for your great insight. And I would like to give you a little gift and get our photographer for the picture.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're living happier. Here you are. Okay, first we can come in the front. Oh, it's you, absolutely. I'm not forcing any branding exercise. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you branding. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So now it's time for you people either to... Pardon? Yes? You don't trust me, do you? So I was saying, you know, I mean, she knows me also, that's why. So yeah, it's time to go back either in the same workshop or for you to try to have another taste on another workshop, right? So the workshops are located at the same place. Here you're gonna have the next gen AI Insight. Up there you have the two others, so the more creative and sorry, the third one you remember, right? Don't you? The third one being. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. So educational technology up there too. So it's gonna be like the first format, right? 45 minutes. Then after we're gonna enjoy a break before the third and last panel, where you're gonna be joining us back here, right? Thank you so much. See you very soon then. Thank you. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us again for the last but not least of our panel, right? We're gonna be about sustainability at work, right? So for this specific, not keynote, sorry, but panel, I'm glad to ask Frédéric Drigny to join me and maybe to introduce you, thank you, to introduce you in few words, if you don't mind. So you are ex-Lazada, and you are a founder and CEO of Lulupack. Lulupack being providing reusable and returnable packaging services for e-stores and e-commerce platforms to reduce the packaging waste, obviously. And it's a pretty, I mean, it's a cool adventure, right? I guess. I mean, maybe you will say a few words about it, but it's already, and you managed to have a super nice partnership with Starbucks, right? So now in Vietnam, basically, right, instead of receiving your, I don't know what, your errands, and then throwing it away, you just have to go to the next Starbucks, you give it back, and it's gonna go up to 60 times in the same chain, right? So thank you very much for doing that. What else can I say? So you are partnering with 125 colleagues points, which is great. You are here in Indonesia to explore if you can do the same good here. And I wish you're gonna find that. For the less known facts, you are 2 times runner-up for Mr. Vietnam, because you are handsome and clever and pretty tall, right? That's it. All right, guys. So my pleasure to welcome the runner-up of Mr. Universe, Mr. Drini, please.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I know it has been a long day, and it works all the time. Today, last panel is going to be about sustainability at work. And I'm very delighted today to have 3 amazing speakers. I'm going to introduce you each of them. The first one, she's a delight. First time I met her, it's like, wow. You just speak 5 minutes with her, and you get all your positive energy that you need for the rest of the month. She's CEO and founder of Green Push, which encourage employees to do some positive climate actions. Please welcome on stage Alia. Okay, just to wake you up a bit, that's right. Second panelist is from Bandung. Anyone else from Bandung here? West? Ready? Okay, so you guys have to speak after. Okay, he has been working in the sustainable field for many years. He's advising companies like GoTo, World Bank, and he's here today to give us some advice on how to implement sustainable action in corporate and governments. Please welcome Eric. Huh? Oh, you take? Okay, he's taking my chair. So, last and not least, this person also opened his doors the first day I arrived in Bali. When I arrived 2 years ago, I was looking for people working in the sustainable field. I pinged him. He said, yeah, come to my office, have a coffee, let's talk, let's discuss. And he introduced me to a lot of people. He has been acting in the sustainable field for a long time with his company. He's CEO and founder of Handprint. I guess most of you heard about it also. And with Handprint, it's a technology platform that a lot of large-scale companies use to execute their sustainable transformation. Please welcome on stage Matthias. Okay, so after these quick introductions, now you know who are the panelists, but we don't know you. So I'm going to ask you 1 or 2 questions just to see who is in the audience. By raising a hand, how many of you are working in the sustainable field? Raising, ready, like, be proud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, thank you. How many of you are working in a startup, or kind of a startup? Okay, and how many of you are happy to be here today? Yeah, you better raise, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's start. Okay, so as we say, today we're going to talk about sustainability at work. So it's a large theme. And before going deep about this, let's ask some questions that people are already wondering. We hear a lot of companies saying we are doing some sustainability actions outside and inside. We have CSR report. We do advertising communication about it. But is it true or is it just fake? Does it do it really for the positive impact or does it do it only for the branding? I know I start straight with a hard question, but it's just for have your opinion about this. So the first question will be to you, Alia.
Thank you, Frederic. Thank you for the really kind introduction. Did not expect that. Well, I think companies today, I mean, when you say companies, you have everything and everything. Depending on the size, depending on the industry, all companies are at different stage of their own journey. So some are just basically raising awareness today. Some are actually doing and walking the talk. And I think what we see is that the ones that are actually creating an impact are not really that visible. And because there are usually smaller size companies or more medium sized companies, and there might be, for example, client of handprint, and they're actually doing a huge impact that we don't really see. But the ones that are really vocal, and sometimes, I don't want to name, but there are like multinationals that are sharing very proudly about their CSR goals and what they want to do by 2050, and basically what they're planning to do, but then what is actually going on behind the scenes. And what I've seen with, working with clients in Singapore is that a lot of these companies that are, really large companies with thousands of employees, but actually they have really tiny, small sustainability teams. Like sometimes we talk about 1% or 2%, and it's like, what? Like you don't have bigger teams working on these really, really important issues, and apparently not. So that's also like part of my job, obviously, is to also empower employees to take more climate action. But also on the individual side, talking about the brands, I think everyone should be mindful about the messages that we see, because a lot of brands surf on really, really big, shiny words like, eco-friendly or sustainable or green, whatever. But what does it even mean? Like, do they have real proof? And there are regulations being done in Europe that are really, really important, but not so much in Asia. So when you're a consumer and you see a brand saying, they are conscious, like, I don't know, H&M releasing a conscious brand, think about how many clothes they produce. There is still billions of items every year. So is this really making that collection conscious? Because they have said that that much percentage is recycled, for example. And then actually what they're talking about is the tag of the clothing item, for example. So sometimes they're really taking us, consumers are, maybe they think we don't have brains, but we have. And so what we see is a lot of people actually shaming these companies. And I think there's kind of a double-edged sword, because some should be shamed because they're really taking people for stupid people. Like they're saying, I don't know, this packaging is paper, but actually they hide plastic inside, for example. But I don't think we can go somewhere by shaming only, because what we see is also these really big multinationals. They're like these really giant boats. They're not acting like startups or smaller companies. You cannot ask a boat that is like huge to change direction in, I don't know, a year. That's just not possible. So what we see behind the scenes is like some of these companies are actually doing an effort. They want to change, but first of all, it cannot be fast. They cannot do everything. And then once they try to do something, they are being backlashed. They are being shamed. And what we see is, I was having this discussion with a lady working in shipping. She said most of her clients, who are like big multinationals, they're just afraid now to communicate. They prefer not to say anything, just to avoid any kind of bad buzz, than actually talking about what they're doing and advancing the conversation, which is what we need. We need more collaboration. We need to, learn from each other as well. So I don't think there's like one perfect company doing everything, and I don't think that's possible. But yeah, I think it's, in a way, it's kind of like a question that is not universal, of course. Each company is different, but at least I'm staying optimistic because I can see from my own eyes that, some of them are actually walking the talk and having a positive impact.
Yeah, you see, I told you she's a positive girl all the time. Eric.
I'm just going to add on to what's already mentioned, and I totally agree. Most big companies, the big FMCGs, they have a small team on sustainability, and they don't have any power. They don't have any influence. They don't have any budgets. They don't have any decision-making authorities. So what they are essentially internal consultants who talks to the rest of the organizations. You should do better. You should do this and that and everything. But like most of that actually falls on deaf ears. The rest of the organization tends to just like, oh yeah, the sustainability team, like they are just like a nuisance. Some actually do try to make an effort, but majority just kind of like, okay, we just kind of like need to go as that much, because then the corporate secretary also needs to deliver good numbers on the sustainability report. So and then they would work together with the sustainability team. And I also don't want to be naming names. In some cases, it's no, not. Well, that actually is like a rather explicit statement within the team. We are not about policing. We're not about shaming. Yes, we do understand the practice. We know who's doing better and who's doing worse. But our approach is much more collaborative as well. It's like, okay, how do we actually to get them better rather than shaming and then there's actually a term about companies not wanting to say anything because they are worried about being attacked. Like that's green hushing. Or another version of green hushing is like actually hiding what you're doing just because you don't want to get scrutinized. Either way, same effect. So that's another angle on sustainability on big companies as well. I think, well, we're in a tech forum, but probably we can reach that topic about sustainability in tech as well. But like right now, in general, the big companies are facing this situations. Like a lot of the sustainability initiatives are still deemed to be, oh, it's expensive. We still need to focus on numbers. Sales are going down, competitions are increasing. Like I work with like FMCGs, and this is a recurring theme. Sales are, of course, still #1 priority. And like when the sustainability team is like, can you just change this packaging into something like, no. Like that's adding more costs. We need to do R&D. We need like, some are trying. Some are trying hard. We've done like a lot of collaborations trying to work together with the R&D team on reducing waste, on reducing energy consumptions. But it's really, really not easy. Like I'm not defending them. They need to do better. But it's also not an easy task. It's not like they can just switch and go do it. That requires like top level approval or like even endorsement or commitment. And if he does that at the expense of sales, he's gonna lose his job pretty quickly. So we're in a tight situation as well. That's just the reality. Like how are we solving this when the pressures to just grow, make more money, sell is still also very high? Then who's pressuring these people? Like most of them are public companies. It's the people who's giving that kind of pressure as well. So it's a complex situation. It's blaming. That's why blaming is really not a good, effective solution. Shaming. They're in a tight spot as well. Like my approach is more like let's work together, help on solving the problem together. And yeah, I feel their headache. It's not easy. So.
Thanks, Eric. Let's hear about Matthias now.
Yeah, thank you. I think I resonate a lot with what you say, Eric, and what we observe in companies as well, and why they are acting like this is in most companies, the sustainability function is actually organized as a compliance function. And even when you look at the people that are in those teams, they are people from marketing, people from compliance. They are not people from strategy. And I think the real shift is going to happen when the sustainability strategy of the company is going to be embedded in the strategy of the company. And that's how you can make a real shift. And to answer your question about like how genuine sustainability strategies of companies are, I think for us at Handprint, at least, it's really not the question of like how genuine. It's really, for us, what's important is how scientific the claims that are being made are. And that's what we help our clients about. And we have clients that are doing it for purpose, for purpose, and others that are doing it for profit. And ultimately, like, we are no one to judge, and there is no moral question to the sustainability question. I think in the corporate world, it's completely normal to have a P&L in dollar and and want to have a business that thrives. At least that's the current paradigm we are living in, and that's what we're trying to use as a lever to create more sustainable and regenerative practices within large corporations.
Okay, thanks all of you for your answer. Very interesting. And I would like to stay with you, Matthias, regarding the company you work for and you have been working for. In this field, do you see any difference depending on the location of the company? I mean, Asian company compared to Western company, is there a big difference in the way they act and they do sustainability actions?
It's three different questions in the way they act, in the way they do, in the way they talk about it. It's three different questions. But just to summarize a little bit what we see, because we specialize in embedding sustainability into customer experiences for clients in the banking space, in the advertising space, in the loyalty space. So we do have access to data on their own customer base, and it's millions of people. The main difference, I would say, in terms of practices and communication, I think it's in this in the framing of sustainability that's very carbon focused in the Western world. So like when you go into in the US, in Europe, it's only about carbon footprint, carbon compensation, carbon this and carbon that, while the narrative that works best, and we've seen recently amazing examples with Alipay, for example, in China, is when you frame the question more around protecting nature than offsetting your carbon as a customer, and here I'm really talking about B2C companies, you have much more engagement because people in Southeast Asia understand what nature is, they can see it, while in the US, in Europe, because the debate around sustainability has been focusing on carbon for so long, even though they actually don't understand it, they assume it is the right approach, and I think that's probably the main difference in terms of action and communication. It's around the framing carbon versus nature. And then in terms of corporate practices, I think Eric can answer better because he has a customer base that's probably more here than us. At Handprint, our clients are also mostly in the north, in the global north. But what we see a little bit of difference as well in terms of how they communicate. They are actually much more free, you know, like to embed that into their corporate communication. A client in France to get, or in Germany to get what they have done in terms of sustainability with us integrated into their corporate communication takes 12 months, right? So here I feel even big companies in Asia are more agile from that perspective, probably because their sustainability team and the way they organize that function within the company is also newer. It's like a year, 2 years old, while in France, you already have sustainability team for maybe 10 years, and so there are lots of processes, and so those are the two differences that we've noticed, at least.
You good? Anything to add about? Okay, great. So now I have a question for you now. As we spoke before in previous panel, we talked about AI, so I have to bring it up, of course. If not, it's not going to be a tech panel today. So how does AI impact sustainability from your point of view?
So, yeah, that's an interesting question. It's big, yeah. I use AI a lot in the sustainability work that I do. Actually, in all the sustainability services, efforts, transformations, change, I use, technology as an enabler in general, and a lot of them does contain AI. And just to put some framework in the approach, so I'm not talking too much about AI as in LLMs and ChatGPT per se, but more on the wider sense of AI. For instance, there has been a lot of initiative. Hey, can we use garbage sorting using computer vision, which is an AI? Yes. Effective? No. Kind of a lot of weaknesses. A lot of plastics look the same. But that's one simple example to use. But for another case, we are actually using in making agriculture more sustainable, for instance. Can we actually sort incoming fruits and vegetables? Separate them, handle them differently. Yes. What's the effect of that? How is that helping sustainability? You actually reduce a lot of food waste. And food waste is actually one of the largest source of waste, carbon, methanes, and a lot of things. So these are practical example outside of work on more real grounded industries. You can also do a lot of analysis on what's the energy balance in this factory. You can draw it, picture it, use AI to help analyze. The analysis is going to be much faster. You can do the calculation quicker using, actually the new ChatGPT does calculations well. Something that I would have wrecked my brains for a long time, it does it in 2 minutes. So that's like the example. So there are various ways, and I'm currently, so far, I'm just talking about using AI on engineering or technical interventions. But what about AI on a day-to-day work? If you're a tech company, if you're a software developer, how does that? Yeah, there's some bits of that as well that you can do. You can like monitor your usage, get AI to analyze, help you change your behavior. That's like something more easier, something more practical if you're not really doing heavy-duty AI, not AI, sustainability interventions to company. So yeah, these are like some of the examples I can mention. But yes, AI done well, used well, actually is a powerful enabler. I think like it's the same topic that we've been going through all day. AI, it just depends on how you use it. You can use AI to support sustainability work. It doesn't have to be negative. Yes, AI, if you're talking about LLM and image generation, how much carbon and energy it consumes sounds bad, but no, there's a lot of good uses of AI in sustainability work. Whether that's you're making changes or you're just trying to change the way you work yourself.
So at Handprint, we have one other example that I think is worth mentioning. So my two co-founders are actually PhD in climate policies, digital sustainability. Part of their work at Handprint used to be about computing the additional positive effect of any project, restoration project that we have. It can be like mangrove, coral restoration, ocean plastic. And they used to spend days, if not weeks, to compute that, to actually put it into a report for our corporate clients. And recently we've created a GPTs. So it's an instance of GPT that embeds a lot of their knowledge, basically, with like prompts that are very well engineered, that actually creates a model to calculate what's called ecosystem services value. So the value that you create, that the nature, once regenerated, gives to society in terms of support to biodiversity, regulation of nitrogen cycles, carbon cycles, etc. This has a price for society that we can compute. And it used to take them weeks. Now it takes them really 1 minute, less than 1 minute actually per calculation. It's just a game changer. The trade-off is that we cannot audit that model because it's machine learning generated, so you cannot actually look into how it's been computed. But the benefit is so much higher that we actually use it, and we try to, on a regular basis, benchmark our model to other non-AI based model to demonstrate that it's actually compliant to what other models can calculate.
Wow, thank you for your answer, guys. Very interesting, and I guess we can go on and on about AI. So, but let's try to refocus a bit about people. What was the theme of today, which is like sustainability at work, because we just spoke about sustainability that company does mainly outside of work. So I'm going to turn now to Elia, which is a people person, and I'm ask you some simple questions. What does sustainability at work mean? What does it mean?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, sustainability at work, for me, it's about embarking your workforce, embarking your people. Because a lot of companies today are working on what we call scope 1 and 2. They're trying to reduce and do whatever CSR goals that they have. But oftentimes, they literally forget about their workforce, and it's their biggest asset today. So, for example, when I started my journey with Green Push, I was going through some sustainability reports. Yes, I did that. And there was this company in Singapore, a telecommunication company, who has 12,000 employees. They literally did a whole sustainability report about how they're, reducing their carbon footprint for their data centers and how much they're amazing, and it was like a 60-page report. And when I just Control F to see what they're doing with their people, it was one paragraph saying, oh yeah, we did Earth Hour, so we encourage people to switch off the light for 1 hour. This was like 2 years ago. So you cannot expect people to start taking some action and without even embarking with them, without educating them, without raising awareness, without empowering them. That's just not possible. And you know, some companies sometimes they come to me and they're like, oh yeah, we have this amazing e-waste bin, so we have this partner because we want to reduce our e-waste, but like no one contributes. Like, and I'm like, yeah, but do they know about your program? Do they know about what you're doing? Or I have a client who has a reusable packaging solution in the office with their hundreds of employees, but if no one knows that this exists, how do you expect to reduce your plastic footprint, for example, if people keep on going and using single-use plastics, for example? So yeah, sustainability at work is obviously happening in the office, but whenever I do my training, I show to people that sustainability is embedded in their lives because we all have an impact on everything. So it's about really showing them basically what they can do, but trying to take them from an angle that talks to them. So I always try to tap into their emotions because not everyone will care about saving the planet. Like honestly, we have to be realistic. But other people care about other things. They care about their health, for example. They care about their children's health. They care about, other things that will make them kind of just think about that first thing that can start doing. And I really strongly believe in the ripple effect and that when you bring people together, they can influence each other. You can influence behaviors by putting people together. So if you want something to become the norm, make it really easy for them. Make it really, there are so many nudges that can be used. I mean, we are humans. Most of our actions are completely unconscious. So companies can use certain things at work to make it so easy that it doesn't have to be convincing them. It's not about saying, try to do this, or please stop doing that. No, it won't work. If you say to someone, stop doing that, they might continue doing it and you won't change anything. So there's this great example from a company in Singapore, it's a bank, and approach where people feel part of that strategy happening within the company.
Thank you for this complete answer, and sorry for the technical issue. Eric, I'm going to ask you the same questions, but add on also, do you see that the sustainability at work momentum is growing?
Okay. Quickly answering the first bit. That's currently, honestly, like my current recurring problem, definitions, because I constantly get asked, okay, sustainability, impact, ESG, CSR, all these things are regenerative, and like, are they the same? Technically, no. There's clear differences in definition, but they overlap so much that like, it kind of like you use what you want as long as the principle is there. It's like, and personally for me, sustainability at work, my work is entirely, almost exclusively sustainability work, whether that's like a consulting, advisory, or like mentoring startups, developing startups, they're all sustainability focused. So for me, that's like rather equal. Sustainability at work, sustainability is work, work is sustainability. Personal answer. And your last questions about, is it growing? Very obvious, yes. I've been doing this for a very long time and I can actually feel the influx, the level of interest and attention, good and bad. Naturally, I'm also witnessing a lot of opportunistic attempts to gain traction, profits, money out of these initiatives because, oh yeah, sustainability is getting sexy. There's a lot of impact investment. There's a lot of sustainability funds, and like let's get a piece of it without actually caring, without actually pursuing real sustainable impact. So yeah, simple answer, yes, very, very observable growth. And there's also coming in from compliance directives. It's been a while when, since stock exchanges require ESG reporting. Of course, ESG is actually not, it's risk focus rather than actual positive impact focus. But it has a ripple effect that is generally positive, that it's good, that actually helps sustainable work in general. So yeah, the mainstreaming, the attention, like the fact that people are more aware, awareness level is still lacking in general. That's why the question on all these differences of definition and how to do the work or how I can participate or how I can help is very frequent. There's also material and immaterial sustainability work, the nice way of saying important and unimportant. they're all there, and it is all growing.
Thanks, Eric. Just to be practical, let's say, for example, I'm a CEO, but I'm a CEO of a big company, have 20, 40, 100 employees. And I heard about sustainability at work, so I want to implement it. My question is, okay, how do I start? How do I engage employee? What I'm going to face if I try to do this? Who wants to start? Who has any idea? Yeah, I guess Alia?
I think it all depends on where that company is on their own journey. So if they're just starting, usually it starts with awareness. It starts with education, and my approach is having also a very positive approach to the topic, because if you bring someone who has a lot of doom and gloom and be like, you know, we're all doomed and by 2050 we're not going to exist anymore, and yes, there are realities that we cannot ignore, but like, how are you going to empower people to do more if you just put that to them and then expect them to act or expect them to be really excited to start doing something? You can't. So, I mean, probably yes, I don't know, but my approach is very different. I try to be very realistic, but also show them that these things can actually become embedded into their lifestyle, and it can start today. It can start with them. It can start with small actions, because I really believe that, you know, if you start taking some action today, small action per small action per small action actually creates a bigger impact over time. It's better than not doing anything. So it's giving them the option, but also putting them together, bringing these different people from different departments, connecting them, creating that green team internally, having people want to do more. So, because, you know, a lot of people, there have been some studies that employees want to have a purpose, they want to have a bigger impact in their jobs, you know, they don't want to just go to a one-off event, they want to feel like they're having a positive impact. So at least starting with the education, showing them what they can start doing within their work environment and also in their life is already like a first great step. And then, yeah, of course, and then you know, after the education, there's the implementation, and then of course each company has its own culture, so it's about adapting to that as well. So with some companies we run events, for example, and then others is more like creating content that is actually sent every month to really make sure that we keep the awareness going. So it really depends on also their culture, the industry, where they are, how many employees. So there's not like one answer fits all, I guess. So yeah, it's more on the consultative approach, I assume.
Okay, I guess she bounces straight back to you, but maybe Matthias have some add to add about initiatives that can be added in the workspace.
But for us, it's less about like what employees can do than what the company can do, obviously, but every job is a climate job. And asking to a company the question what it means for that company, which is a wealth-producing entity, to be sustainable, ultimately it comes down to the question to how this company can thrive by aligning its business model with planetary boundaries. That's really what it means to become sustainable. And I think beyond the you know, action, I would say, that can be done in the workplace, it's really about employees participating to that transition, and it goes much further than you know, avoiding to have single-use plastic in the cafeteria and all of that. It's really about like what can we do in terms of corporate strategy to align our business model with planetary boundaries. And I think this is a question that companies more and more should involve larger working groups within companies, because today it's a bit siloed. It's like the sustainability team leading an initiative. And what we see at Handprint, we have some clients in the banking space, retail banks, the younger generation, like young workers between 20 to 25, 26 years old, us, they actually want to do something, you know, and they want to drive the strategy of the company. They understand those questions much better than the previous generation, and they can really be a driver. They can really be a force within the workspace if they are heard by the strategy of the company. And I think this is really the biggest shift that's coming in the next few years in terms of like how to engage employees into the sustainability question in a company. It's going to become less cosmetic and more strategic. I would say at least we see a few examples in large companies where it's happening.
Thank you very much for this answer. Eric?
So I think like a lot has been said. And on that note, what's the question again?
How do you engage the employee?
Right.
What barrier you might
I
face?
got distracted by something. I think a lot has been answered on that point about the company actually needing to involve the team, make bigger efforts and everything. And then like I'll just add on how you actually do that. It's also we've discussed how it is difficult to actually do some work, but there are some frameworks. Like UNDP has the SDG impact standards, for instance. And that is not an impact measurement methodology. It's actually a methodology on how to create impact. How? Like, okay, I'm not going to go into the details of the difference. I lost the audience, that's very true. But essentially, it's an approach on how to do better impact, how to be more aligned with the SDGs. There's 12 general steps. It doesn't have to be followed step by step, but the most important one, number one, is commitment. And commitment that comes from the top. I think we've also discussed this a little bit. Without top-level commitment, if it's just ground movement, it's not going to make the whole company be more sustainable.
Thank you very much for your answers. I know that you don't want to give names, but I have a question. We require names, but on the positive side. So I'm talking about role modeling companies that you know, or that you heard, or that you work with, besides yours, of course, that you would like to highlight because they are having some good sustainable activity at work. So Matthias, would you be okay to start?
I think I can give two examples here that are that are good examples. One is a company called Tunes, is one of the largest and one of the fastest growing payment platform in Asia. They have made a corporate pledge of aligning their business model with nature, with the planetary boundaries. And it's a company that has a very, very low carbon footprint. So if they were following carbon frameworks that have been very mainstream now in corporate sustainability practices, they would basically just compute their carbon footprint, try to reduce it, and then offset it. With a corporate pledge like they are doing of planting one tree, so restoring around 8 square meters of forest for every 5,000 transactions on their platform. Today, I think they have planted like 148,000 trees in Indonesia. They are now one of the largest natural capital provider in Indonesia. They're doing it through handprint. And it makes them 2 to 3 times carbon positive. It means their positive impact, their handprint, is 2 to 3 times more than their footprint, that their negative impact. And it's a completely new way of looking at the sustainability question, and more companies are going that route. And another interesting example, it's a company that doesn't buy impact, but they offer by white labeling our technology platform, basically, they offer to their corporate clients services around sustainability and regeneration. It's a company called IDEMIA. It's a big French multinational. They are one of the largest players when it comes to credit cards. They sell to banks, etc. They serve 40% of the retail banks in the world, so it's a very large player. They have integrated our technology to enable retail banks to integrate within their loyalty programs, their cashback programs, some regeneration directly embedded in the card. And for them, they don't buy an impact, but because they are a key player in an ecosystem that has access to so many retail banks and so many end users, they are actually enabling a shift, not by purchasing impact and funding impact, but by enabling that transition and offering sustainable services. And I think there are more and more companies that are doing that transformation in terms of what they can offer on the market that can help the sustainability agenda. And I think those two examples are quite interesting to mention.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. I think just to add on a point that Matthias said is really how companies today can basically move away from doing less bad and more good. And that's why I support so much Handprint for that. Another example that I want to share is a client of mine that you might know. It's called Traveloka. It's an Indonesian company. And they're like the booking.com, but here, and basically they're really trying to look at it from all angles, whether it's from their customers or the hotels that they have on the platform, or also their workforce. That's what we're also working on. So for example, they help hotels get GSTC trained, so they're the first platinum sponsored of GSTC. They're really helping and working closely with hotels for them to become, more sustainable in a way through the certification. They're also helping their employees reduce their plastic footprint. Like plastic has been such a big conversation and part of their strategy, but also having a social impact. So for example, they're working with this foundation here in Bali called Roll Foundation, who's helping women leave the cycle of poverty and actually get a job into the hospitality industry. So they're really like trying to have a look at all angles, but like not just try to offset, which could have been their strategy, but they're really trying to do more good through their own platform because they have like millions of users. So also trying to educate customers the best that they can.
Okay. So on this topic, we've gone the fact that a lot of companies are actually doing the sustainability work outside as CSR programs, which essentially is kind of like paying the license to continue to do bad things. But the whole core of sustainability is actually moving it inside, getting your business to actually do good. The core business needs to be sustainable. The real business is sustainable itself, not just by paying some dues outside and basically claiming you've done well. One company I would mention, actually, like we're supposed to have a fourth panelist here, which is Tanah Sullivan, the head of sustainability in GoTo, whichever how you pronounce it. I'm gonna steal her answer, which is the company. GoTo, I'm sure you all have used Gojek or familiar with the company, actually puts it in their core. They have GoTo Foundation, GoTo Impact Foundation, which is kind of like a CSR arm. But they internally have the 3 zeros mandate. 0 emission, 0 waste, 0 barriers. And can you imagine? The third one is actually social. Like a lot of people talk sustainability mostly on environmental. So their third is actually social. So it has been codified that sustainability is part of the core business. Are they doing great? Oh no, far from it. Still a long way to go. It's a serious struggle. I've had a lot of discussions on how to solve even basic problems because it's complicated. But say they're trying to put in some initiatives on the 0 emission bits, introducing more electric bikes for the Gojek drivers. There's a lot of ground level challenges, but the initiative is there. They're also trying to reduce a lot of waste from Tokopedia. You probably got some packaging where it's not bubble wrap. It's actually just shredded cardboards as the protector. That's actually reusing waste as a functional material. It's still waste, but it's reduced waste. On the social part, they're trying to actually do more, make it more inclusive, make the 0 barrier bit gives access to finances. So these are all great initiatives. It's codified in the system as in becoming part of the core business. It's not just outside. It's not just something to build stories on the sustainability report. It's inside. It's the business. But there's still a long way to go in the practice.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, sure.
I think it's a very interesting point, and for us, the difference that we make is really between two types of companies. So obviously, there are some companies where it's more important to align the business model or make the business model more sustainable, those are companies that are either making things, moving things, or mining things, the three M's, right? If you're a company in the service economy, which is today 65% of world's global GDP, you don't make, you don't mine, you don't move, you have a carbon footprint that's extremely low. So on all of those corporate frameworks where we say, oh, you need to go to zero, actually for them is extremely easy. While they have a gigantic power to actually do positive action within or outside their value chain, today most of those companies, they don't do anything because of this mindset of, oh, as long as we are zero carbon, it's okay, and we do it internally. While those companies are a huge lever of action and a huge lever of funding for projects outside of their value chain that can really change the nature, like it can really have an impact on nature's health itself. Because obviously it's not because you spend your time killing corals that you need to replenish corals. It doesn't work like this. But in the carbon world, that's actually how it works. And there are many companies that are calibrating their positive impact only to the pollution that they emit. They say, oh, this is our carbon footprint. We're just going to contribute to this much. We're first going to try to reduce, obviously. But those type of sustainability framework, de facto, they exclude 65% of the economy. And we are seeing a huge shift happening in terms of corporate sustainability practices, not so much in Southeast Asia, but mostly in Europe and in the US, where the service economy enters new ways of action. Basically, they are deploying new way of action that are not those legacy sustainability frameworks around let's reduce our carbon footprint and then we see. Because they have so much money, so much power, and so small environmental footprints that they can actually make much more within and most importantly outside their value chain, because you have some natural ecosystems all over the world that are extremely critical for planetary health, like wet grass, kelp, coral reefs, mangrove restoration, that can be restored now and that can have a huge impact on planetary health. And so at Handprint, that's really what we are trying to push as well, is this, it's a parallel track for us. It's not a first do that, then do this. It's first do both, right? So that's, I just wanted to highlight this new emerging framework. People call it in regeneration in the corporate sustainability world.
Great, thanks. Yeah. I got a little note that we need to reduce the time. So I have one last question, and I want you to maybe do a short answer so we can open the floor for Q&A session from the audience. So you already answered partially the question is, how do you see sustainability at work in the future? What's going to happen from your point of view? You already mentioned a bit what's happening. Alia, what's your vision?
So as you know, I'm a very optimistic person. So I'm really hoping in the future that what we call today more, the most sustainable behavior in a way is becoming the norm, where we really see more collaboration happening. We see less individualistic action, but we see more people, more togetherness in a way, people working really together, wanting to have a positive impact, being more conscious in general, and conscious of their actions, and not just at work, but beyond work.
Yeah, not much to add. I actually shared that. I was doing like an impact training and asked that exact same question. I was like saying, oh, I want to remove the word impact, meaning everything should be impactful. It should just be the norm. Every business should just be good business. Jumping a little bit, adding on to that, like on the tech world, tech is actually one of these low impact categories. The negative effect on on the environment from the tech industry mostly comes from 2, 3, on energy consumption, on the materials, if you're wasting a lot of precious metal, metals that needs to be mined, and on the social side is actually if it's negative spread of news, you're moving, like technology is causing a lot of mental drains and everything. This naturally will also be improving. Right now, a lot of the negative effects of tax on sustainability is due to tech moves so fast, the countermeasures or controls or governance are not catching up, but it is slowly catching up. It is going to get better as well.
And for us, yeah, what we are dreaming of, is really this shift happening, and I think Southeast Asia is really prone to actually executing that shift before the Western world, and it's really about stop to obsess about delimitation of footprint. Like, oh, as a company, this is my footprint, so this is how much I want to contribute to the world. I'm going to reduce and I'm going to do whatever. Towards more like community-based, bioregion-based action. And it means synchronizing many actors that don't speak to each other, companies, public institutions, universities, scientists, and all of that. And hopefully, in a few years, we will be living in a world where this action at the level of the bioregion happens, rather than dreaming of this individualization of carbon footprinting for each company that really only exists on paper, and that corporates are mimicking from their financial world. They have a P&L of dollars, so they imagine that they have a P&L of carbon. But many things with that assumption are scientifically invalid, like the fungibility of carbon and all of that. I don't want to go too technical, but a good evolution, or what we are dreaming of at Handprint, is a state of the world where people collaborate towards bioregional goals rather than individualistic carbon footprints in an Excel sheet.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, all of you. Now I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience, if you have any. Yeah. Please say your name and your company before.
Hi, I'm Benjamin from New World Together. So I've been, I've heard, there's two aspects I want to bring, so I'm sorry. I'll try to put them together at once. I've heard about planetary limits, a very fundamental subject. No, it seems that to integrate planetary limits, it's not just one business that can do it, it's all business that need to work together. My question here is that, do you believe the current economic model, which is basically addicted to GDP growth and based on competition for growth, is fit for purpose for this vital task? And if not, what can we do to help not only transform businesses, but also the economic paradigm, so that naturally it will reward businesses who are doing the right thing rather than those who are extracting resources and over-exploiting resources and driving the rat race toward disaster? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to answer on that one. That's like it's a recurring question as well. The simple answer to that is like, can a finite resource planet fulfill infinite growth demands? That's just the two words, it's infinite versus finite. That's your answer. And how do we do it? Yeah, the GDP is getting challenged a lot actually these days. Is it a viable metric to consistently use as a measure of prosperity, growth, and everything? Funny enough, I was just in Bhutan. Their thing was gross national happiness, which is not all about GDP. It's not about economic growth. Sadly, they are also under pressure. The GNH is actually succumbing to GDP. They're also now in a big rush to just catch up on economic growth. I would rather have it the other way around, but yeah. So one country has suggested an alternative solution. Like there's 190 something countries that you need to convince to adopt something that wildly different, but a lot more wholesome.
On this, I think what's what is many time or very often not into the picture is the timeline at which we need to deploy those strategies. So obviously, I completely resonate with this. I understand your question. It's not possible. But there is this aspect of like, okay, do we change the economic system now? Or what is the actual roadmap to go towards a regenerative economy? And I think this is a question that's many times overlooked, like the time aspect of that transition. So now we know the Paris Agreement trajectory is already overshoot, etc. But there are some types of action that are classified into families of short-term actions, some other that are mid-term action, and some other that are long-term action. And obviously the long-term actions are more around changing the economic model, changing the way we measure success for countries, growth, you know, because it's like what do we want to grow, right? Effectively, if it's GDP, we are going into a wall. But those are solutions that takes so much time to implement, and at Handprint, our mission is to focus on really the short-term type of action that hopefully at some point will, you know, help the economic model basculate, I don't know, shift towards this long-term type of family action. But yeah, excellent question.
Yeah, I know. I just feel like a lot of things have been said already. What I want to touch more on is more the mindset in a way, like that we don't really have today. We're starting to have it. Is to, instead of seeing, you know, what others are doing as competition or, you know, or they're doing better than us and everything, it's about how can we change the narrative and see how can we collaborate more to amplify our impact. So on a personal level, I always try to be that bridge and see how I can, you know, either connect the companies or people or through communities that I built or communities I'm part of and this is happening, like, movements are here. I'm today nominated, for example, for the Earthshot Prize. Like they're literally building a platform where you have so many impact solutions here for investors to look at. So it's more about how can you also be part of these existing movements as well, so we can have also more collaboration and not be afraid of that, because mindset needs to change also today if we want that.
Thank you very much. Well, I think our time is off. I hope you learned a lot of things today about sustainability. No worry, a lot of words that they say, we don't know what this means. So if you have any question, you can go to see them also, or the CPR, or the little details. They can give you more details about this. Just to close this, we're going to first give a big round of applause to our panelists today. Thank you very much for your time. We have some little gift for you. Please stand up. Which one of them is nicely offered by Handprint. So, thank you very much. I think we do a photo. Thank you very much for all your insight, and I leave the floor to Jérôme.
Thank you, Frédéric. Thank you very much for this, once again, insightful session. And yes, so many more to say, but yet we have a time frame, right? So I guess that now, I got the good news and another good news. The first good news is a third workshop. Don't get overexcited, right? The third workshop gonna start again soon. And the even better news is, if you want to grab a drink, right, the bar is open, so you maybe come up with more, I don't know, what? The bar is open for beers, of course. A bar with no beers is not, is just a meeting, right? So I guess that's the good news, right? So grab a beer, and then after you can break out in your, favorite room, and that's for it now. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello.
Hey, hey. Hello, hello. Everyone, just
Just a couple of minutes of focus from you would be great. We might jump in the pool just to get your attention, so be careful.
Hello, hello.
I think we have their attention.
You we do have.
I promised them for you to jump in the pool.
All right, I mean, I will for sure. So I want to, before leaving the floor to the two co-presidents of the French Tech, I want to extend my thanks again for you people, local attendees in Bali. We were lucky to have quite a number of people from Jakarta and Singapore, and indeed beyond. Right? You can hear? Can you? Okay. Are you just scratching your ear, right? Okay, thank you. And thank you very much for that. Thank you also for our sponsor, and I want to extend a special thanks to Immersion.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else? We had also 10.
So, yeah. Yeah. So I would like also to give a special thanks to Quantum Temple, who has prepared a quick surprise for us. So stay tuned. It's coming up in a few minutes.
Sure. And obviously, before these people are gonna thank themselves, but the organization team, Aurélie, especially, Simon,
Big
Frédéric, Catherine, and many others who made that possible. So once again, it's the third and the best, obviously, so far edition we had. And the best gonna be the fourth one. We're gonna be in Jakarta, I guess, right?
Next year.
Next year. So I leave you the floor, Mr. Reza.
I just want to extend a big thank you to the organization team again, myself. You have been amazing. Just so you know, the French Tech is a community. We're all working on this on a voluntary basis. Everything of this has been put up on everybody's site time. And you have done an amazing job. So thank you very much. I wouldn't have been able to put all this up without you. So thank you.
And last but not
least,
Anne Caron, who is the leader of all these events. Bravo, congratulations. It was a great event.
Thank you. Your time next year.
My turn next year. Thank you, Jérôme.
All right.
Thank you for...
and thank you a lot to our MC.
Great
Third
job.
time. Amazing. I would just like to say, for those who took place to the workshop collage, the sustainability collage, you can see the outcome over there. It's quite interesting to see, especially if you haven't seen it. But those who participated, you can see what the outcome was. Thank you to all the speakers as well, and the moderators and the people who participated to building the content in the workshop as well. Thank you. Have a good evening, right?
See you next year.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Everyone, now, time for French time.